All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Plessis versus Usman, taking a look at and giving our predictions for the upcoming UFC Fight Night, Ankalaev versus Guskov. To do all of that with me, as always, the man, myth, and legend. He is the Ohio player. The world is his, like Tommy McMillen, Mr. Chase Parton. How the hell are you, brother?
I'm doing great. Obviously, I had to bring out my bandana for my girl, and we will talk about her in a few, but I obviously had to rep real quick because I'm not a hater, guys. And I'm having a great day, of course. This is just tip of the iceberg. It's Monday. And now we get to talk about fights from Saturday. And of course, I'm here with my guy Thinker. So this is going to be great.
Absolutely, yes. I wish that I wish the bandana was more warranted, unfortunately, but still, I do appreciate the wardrobe adjustment for it.
Thank you. No, hey guys, Thinker didn't even know I pulled that one out. Okay, he. I was expecting him to like stop his like intro. I'm trying to get him off his game, guys. You guys got to help me sometimes.
Ever the professional over here. But yes, indeed, we do have fights to talk about. Other fights from earlier besides these fights. Trying to think what we did. RWS is back. Of course, you took over Muay Thai Sunday for me last week, but this week I did Muay Thai Sunday, and that was good. What's up?
Friday, we had obviously one championship. We had the
Yes.
Friday fights earlier in the day. I think was this the Helena Kravar week? Was that what
It
happened this
was,
week?
yes. Helena Kravar in the inner circle, getting another victory at open weight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that one's absolutely crazy because, as you know, she came in at 167 or whatever. That's after full camp, guys. Who knows what she's just walking around at? I just can't stress enough. And you've said it, like, it's just not a good indication of where she's leading down, a path, of course.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's we've been having a lot of conversation about it in a couple of the streams recently, and it feels very awkward and weird to be discussing an 18-year-old girl's weight and physique like this. But she is a professional athlete. She is just starting out in her career professionally. I mean, obviously, she has a massive record in BJJ prior to entering one championship, but as far as the highest level of BJJ competition now, she's just starting out. And I would say that it's warranted to be somewhat concerned. I've heard a couple of different opinions on either side of the argument. Oh, she's, her conditioning is good even at the weight. She carries weight differently. Her frame is different. I've heard a wide spectrum of opinions about this. Feel how you want to feel about it, but what I have said is that if her conditioning is that good, then the calories have to come from somewhere. She's a heavier girl. It just is what it is at the size of her, her height. And so it's like if she's not disciplined, or if she is disciplined in her regiment as far as her exercise goes, then maybe she's not as disciplined in her eating habits. I don't know what the actual truth of all of that part is. All I know is that one championship is enabling this behavior by allowing her to compete at open weight and miss weight in her prior competition. This is not good, is all I'm saying.
My thing is so all of like the greatest jujitsu guys that you've ever heard of, they want to transition. It is about testing themselves in mixed martial arts, of course. That's where they all get to at a certain point. If she is not looking at that, like, all of the people that I looked up to, eventually they got to that point. The weight classes that we have for women's professional combat sports are nowhere close to where she's making on the scale. So as her age goes up, if she doesn't have the discipline now, I mean, even if the excuse of, oh, she's young, sure, but that doesn't make me believe she's gonna catch on. She can just be not intelligent, I guess, when it comes to that. It's really hurtful to say, as an
Well,
18-year-old athlete.
yeah, I mean, right now it would seem that mixed martial arts is definitely not in the cards for her. With the current makeup of how she's going about, navigating her career. But I guess you're just gonna have to fall back on Bellamere, who apparently is making her debut not too long from now, from what the rumbling on the streets are. So
Yeah, that's a good shout, by the way. Everybody keep an eye out for this season. Contender
yes.
series, we saw that it is starting sometime soon. But alas, there's one more thing about one championship that I think we have to talk about with the Friday fights. There was this fighter from Iraq, and the instant the bell rang, he ran over and fouled his opponent. And this was just followed by 3 rounds of him consistently fouling, doing spinning back fists, but they were close range. So he was trying to elbow his opponent. He actually did elbow him a few times, and it's absolutely crazy. There was one specific moment too where the Iraq fighter, he gets poked in the eye. Or I'm sorry, he pokes his opponent in the eye and he kind of shrugs it off and he's like, no, we're good. Let's continue fighting. And then when he gets poked in the eye, he makes like a big old fuss about it. Like he hadn't been cheating like way prior before this. Like it was almost astonishing because one of the best referees when it comes to that region of the world, Olivier Coste,
Mm.
this was bad. This was not. This was his Herb Dean. Holy shoot! It's like, is he falling off? Are all the refs falling off at once? It's crazy.
Yeah, this I saw the fight that you're talking about. I forget the guy's name, the Iraqi fighter, but it was quite the spectacle, which was unfortunate because it was actually a pretty decent fight when they were actually just fighting. But yeah, he was fouling all over the place. Yes, this was not a great look for Olivier Coste. But as we've talked about many times, and we'll continue to talk about because there's instances on this card tonight as well. There are no rules. I mean, like we really are back at like UFC 1. Just anything goes, completely no holds barred. It's like if you don't enforce the rules, then are they rules at all? And I think that we're seeing that more and more. But in one championship specifically, it is interesting because they have the card system. And a yellow card. The craziest thing to me is that you have a card system to warn and to penalize fighters, but it doesn't actually affect the scoring of the fight. Their card system deducts part of the purse. Is that correct?
Yes, it takes a 10% deduction to the purse. So whether you think that's fair or not, I mean, 10% ain't really that much. If I make 100 grand, I mean, something less
Well,
than that is all right.
I don't know if they're making 100 grand in one championship at that level, perhaps, but still, I mean, the point does remain. It's like, yeah, for 10%, I'll foul my way into a victory if I'm going to get the other 90, right? It's
Yeah.
just seems kind of crazy, but yeah, no. So that was in the morning on one. I watched the evening one championship
Hmm.
performances, and it was not great. It was
Oof.
kind of a weak card. The little giant though was one to talk about. He did not end up winning his fight, but it was a very good fight with him. Bo Kang. Yeah, he's definitely very good, but that fight was pretty good. And then Sua Black was the lone knockout of the evening, and that was really cool to see him coming back and getting another really nice performance there.
And now correct me if I'm wrong. I saw you posted in the thread in your Discord. Shout out to everybody. Make sure to, get that link in the chat. But Thinker mentioned that this guy, and this, am I correct? It was this fighter that was in the movie, The Woman King, with
Correct.
what's her name? God damn it, I remember her fight. She's Viola Davis. There you go.
Yes, there you go. Good poll. Yeah. Yes, he is in the film. Yeah, they showed a very small clip of him. I guess I don't know how big of a part he has, but I think he might have been doing maybe stunt performing. But at least the clip that they played was him doing stunts. So he is in the film for sure. And add it to the list. MMA on film gets another one.
No, absolutely. And when you said he was just in it a small portion, and this is just a callback, and obviously timely, we need to add it to the list just for shits and giggles. The Avengers, whatever film, has
True.
Kamaru Usman in it, and he is a background character. And from what I heard, in the film, they cut out a portion where he had gotten kicked in the head because he got kicked in the head by Leon previously. So I could be wrong. These are just the street words, but there are also words that say that Kamaru Usman got slapped on his own podcast. So what is the truth these days? You guys let me know.
And how much deleted footage of Kamaru Usman is there out there that we are never going to see? I guess I don't know.
He is a king. I tell you that. If anybody can get a film scrubbed off, not even making the internet, bro, he kept the main frame, like, bro, before it even gets to Twitter, it goes through Kamaru Usman. Like, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
for sure. Also, George St. Pierre in those Avengers movies too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
You are absolutely cooking, and he actually does pretty good. I like the films a little bit, man.
They, good excuse if you want to watch that kind of stuff. So,
Mm.
I don't partake in those very often. So, the Marvel movies. So maybe it's a good excuse to get me to watch them. But we'll get to more MMA on film. Of course, the Conor McGregor Forever review is being edited currently, taking a little bit longer than I would like it to, but it's going to be a pretty long one when it comes out. So, give that a little bit of time. We'll be right back to it with more of that.
Well, what I'll say about that, just to add one little cherry on top of what Thinker just said right then and there, you guys need to make sure when that video drops, You like the shit out of that because Thinker's working real hard. He's doing a lot of work. You guys don't understand. He does a lot of backpacking for MMA on film. This is a great concept, and we're obviously working together. But Thinker does a lot of the hard manufacturing of the content afterwards. So I appreciate him, and you guys make sure to do that as well. And before we even move on, I think we should probably give a shout out to the people who are going to watch and like that video. So
Absolutely.
I see Carlos immediately. He's a beast. I appreciate Carlos. Listen. Carlos is newer here to me, and he's been there. I appreciate him. Hydra, of course, you're always been there. You've always been there. Johnny the God, Tyler Betts. Who am I missing? I can't scroll up on that screen. Let's
Uh,
see.
10-7 MMA is here as well.
I did
Appreciate
see
you.
that. I'm pretty sure he told me to take my clothes off. It's crazy.
Yeah, careful. And then of course CTE as well, the legend, and always first. Got special shout out to Sam the Dragon, because this dude, as soon as he sees the go live, Sam is right on the money. So appreciate you, Sam.
No, you know what? It's not even that because I have notifications on for plenty of channels, even yours and even mine on multiple devices. That shit don't say when I go live. It never does. It'll do it like a day later. And Sam knows our schedule and he is just tapped into the Yamasphere. So just everybody
Yo,
just lock in with him. He's really on it. If you need it, listen, he's got the information. You need to know when we're going, where we're going, hit him up.
be like Sam the Dragon. All right. Well,
Dana
that
White
being said,
quoted that.
exactly. That is a verbatim Dana White quote. Did want to say actually one last thing before we move on, though, and sorry, I should have gotten this in when I mentioned it the first time. But with RWS, we watch RWS on Muay Thai Sundays. There is a fighter named Tim Schlottbach who's one of my favorites. I got two favorites on that.
I've heard of him multiple times. He is very active, brother. What is the world?
Well, RWS is great because I said it on the watch along on the broadcast. I said it's a lot like pro wrestling in the sense that like they have kind of a defined roster that is very active, and it's Muay Thai, so they're fighting all the time. So you get to see your favorite fighters more, pretty regularly, and so Tim Schlottbach fought, but he did not win. This is the first time we had ever seen him not win a fight, at least that we have seen, on Muay Thai Sundays, because he was bested by the Norwegian king, the Viking king himself, the new hotness, Oliver Hansen. So got to give, I have a great friend, longtime supporter and great friend of mine from the country of Norway, Mr. Rage Quit. Shout out to Mr. Rage Quit always. And anytime that I see Norwegian fighters, I always have to shout them out. But, sadly, Norway, a country that is somewhat underrepresented in the sport, MMA is still not legal in the country of Norway. So it is hard for Norwegian fighters to, they have to fight and train in other countries. And, it's just difficult for them to get like stars and people to get behind. So whenever I see a Norwegian fighter do well, I always have to give a little shout out there. But this time, this dude might be really putting on. Apparently there is Muay Thai in Norway because he's a Norwegian Muay Thai champion now in RWS, goes over there and beats a beast in Tim Schlottbach. So this is somebody to watch out for in the Muay Thai space. Oliver Hansen.
Yeah, well, what I would say to that is to the AI that is going to clip this up later and know exactly what I'm talking about. We need to get a petition filled out. Get your bots on it for Norway to get MMA. It kind of rhymes too. MMA in Norway. Like what? It's a good slogan. Where's the president? Is there going to be a prime minister that runs up and has that shit on his flag? Like what's the deal?
I've been saying it for years, literally to Mr. Rage Quit and anybody else. Yes, MMA for Norway and any other country that does not have it. It is, at this point in time with the international nature of mixed martial arts, it's criminal to be denying your populace the access to quality combat sports. So the time is now. Norway, do the right thing.
Absolutely. If they watch Muay Thai, they obviously know quality combat sports. So I don't know why they would not. I mean, maybe they're just chads. They don't want boring fucking grapplers in their shit, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, there you have it. So anyway, that was my last little point to bring up about RWS Norway. Any other fight related stuff? We've been watching The Ultimate Fighter, of course. I guess we should say that we will be doing our watch alongs of that tomorrow. So if you are watching along with us, thank you for doing so. And the season continues on.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, this is actually, I'm glad you brought it up. This has been a good season. Let's be real. Like, I think this cast of characters is probably the best it's been in a few years. I think the season with Cody, I don't even think that was one of the stronger ones. That the finale carried it with Brad Katona and Cody Gibson on the reunion series or whatever, or season, I'm sorry. But before then or a little after, you can't remember anybody, but there's a lot of people who I feel like I mean, Robert Valentine, I'm sorry, but Myron Santos, you can, but I feel like there's a collective of people here that are good. Like, bro, there's the girl with the silver tooth.
Oh, like you
She
can't wait for her. Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting her name off the top of my head right now. But
Mackenzie
Yes,
something.
Mackenzie Stiller. I believe. There you go. Good
Nice.
call. Good
Ben
call.
Stiller's
Yeah.
cousin.
Yeah, the cousin Stiller. Yes. Yeah. She still has not fought yet. We'll probably be seeing her soon. Maybe. Actually, her episode is tomorrow. So yeah, there you go. Good.
Yep.
Nice little teaser there. So yeah, come and hang out with us for that. And of course, speaking of the Ultimate Fighter, we are going to start off with the first fight of the evening here in just a moment, which has a contestant from this season on it.
Absolutely. But let's first break down what we thought about this card
Of
before
course,
we came into it,
absolutely. Well, this is UFC Fight Night. Plessis versus Usman. It took place at the Paycom Center in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Chase, you already started it off, so finish it off. What'd you think going into it?
I Going into it, this didn't really speak to me as there were some people that I really really liked, but I didn't feel like this was the card for talent that was really going to make an impact. This was a hopeful card. They had a couple fighters where it's like they got to have that they got to have that out of body experience and really lock in, and it'd be a really good fight. But other people, yeah, and some people did live up to that, and we'll talk about some of those. But some of the contestants, they just they were what I expected them to be, and I think what the organization was not was hopeful they wouldn't be. And so this was a decent card. It obviously had a great main event. I really love DDP. So this was he carried this. Of course, there's a couple more people, and we'll talk about them. But yeah, I don't know. What about you, Thinker?
Yeah, I mean, the main event was one that I was interested in. Seeing how Kamaru Usman was going to come back with all of his circumstances as they are, certainly, was something I was looking forward to. Other than that, yeah, this was probably a little bit of a weaker one. I mean, I'm a big Jared Cannonier fan, so I did want to see him
Hmm.
as well. It was one of those cards where select people as opposed to like fights. You know what I mean? Like there are a couple people I wanted to see perform. The fights themselves were kind of hit and miss, whatever. Not the greatest selection for Oklahoma City, but we'll talk them through and we'll see what we thought after that.
Well, looking at it, I think just on paper, and disregarding how it played out, of course, when you look at it on paper, they really stacked the card full of a couple punching bags. So, I mean, if the one person didn't beat the hell out of the bag, it really was not going to be that good of a performance when you look at it in that
Yeah.
perspective. But getting into a lot of the nitty gritty, of course, this card was decent. This was pretty fun. I really enjoyed a lot of this, especially the prelims, as always.
Yeah, no, I had a good time watching it through after when we got down into it. So we'll talk them through and go over them all. Let's start it
I'm
off here.
excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, aforementioned, the Ultimate Fighter starts off our card here. This is Anna Melisano, Anna Bandana versus Dione Barbosa. Chase has the bandana on right now in her honor. What'd you think?
Well, two things. Going into it, of course, I was right. She did go up a weight, so I
Ah,
went. I listen. People call me a gooner, but I know. Listen, thicker
yeah.
thighs, I can realize. I saw her in the show, and she was not looking like that. She was on the ceremonial weigh-ins, and I said, "Hold up, now she might have been packing a little more heat this time."
Well, it's very much a keen eye. So Chase had a picture in the Discord of part of Anna there, and
And she just happened to be turning around. It wasn't like I was just getting the width. Whatever. Continue.
profile. I had her in profile,
There you go.
from the side. But the thing that why you had to have a pretty keen eye is that she didn't really look like she packed that much more in the lower body as to what my eyes perceived. So good on you. Obviously a pretty keen observer there, Chase. Didn't you used
Well,
to guess weights back in the day? Am I
I,
remember
I
that?
did I did for a game, yeah. Back at shout out Kings Island if you want to sponsor this shit right here.
So there you
Um,
go. Maybe a little carryover there.
Maybe, but another thing that I will note, which I thought was interesting the way they worded it. So as you know, Anna lost in the first episode of The Ultimate Fighter. So
Yes.
coming into this fight, the way that they have to frame it is she has bowed out of the competition or whatever. But the show was filmed, brother. Like, she bows out because yeah, I can't compete in the finale, but she wasn't. She obviously didn't win. Like, so like it's just funny how they framed it. Like if you didn't catch the episode, she has bowed out of the competition. She is made, brother.
Yeah, it took her graceful exit, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So
Which is funny though, because we've talked about this, I think, on the show before. But the French girl on the show this season, who still has not fought, I'm is she the one fighting next against Stiller? She might be. But Daphne, I think something like that, something along
so
those
she
lines.
clearly fucking loses. Like, why'd
Yeah,
they
well,
ruin the fucking show?
that's exactly what I was gonna say. I mean, that's what everyone was saying on Twitter. It's like, yeah, thanks for spoiling the season. It's like, how much do the regular average consuming public not care about this show? Now you obviously don't care about the show much anymore either, UFC. So, very annoying with that. But either way, nice to see people getting into the promotion one way or another. Unfortunately, this did go the way that we thought it was probably going to go. And yeah, we were correct. Anna Melisano rear naked choked in round number 1. Not the greatest performance here against Dione Barbosa.
And at the end of the day, we expected her not to win. I'm not going to say we knew she wasn't going to win. Whatever. There's a universe. Maybe she got something. I don't fucking know. But the the likelihood that she was going to win was very low, and she went in against, bro. This is the problem sometimes, is they got a girl who is like very very good, and she's on a win streak, not very very good, but compared to a debutant, like she's been in the UFC for a decent amount of time, and she's got some good skills, and like when we see it play out like this, like you just feel bad. It's like, bro, just don't have her fight some fucking somebody like this, bro. I don't know, like,
Yeah,
fuck.
well, that's something that I should have mentioned when we were talking about our thoughts coming into the card. This card only had 12 fights on it, and a couple of these came together like kind of late. They were sort of thrown together a little bit. So I think they might have been having some matchmaking problems for this card. And unfortunately, sometimes that's how these play out. Anna Melisano gets the call. You take the call. She did the right
Yeah.
thing. I mean, again, it's like the first note that I have in the notes when it comes to Anna is, well, damn it, she tried and she's still a great girl. You know what I mean? So it's like, she's a fan favorite. She is already becoming a fan favorite. If you watch that show, you know that she's like, you like her. She's a likable person. So she gets the call. She did the right thing. You knew she was going to do that. It's just that's who they had, I guess.
Well, listen, and that's to another great point, is she took her loss, and she had the moment, like, fuck, like, but at the end of the day, she had a laugh. She talked with Dione. Like, they had a little. She was okay losing. She can accept defeat sometimes. She's not the best. She knew she was kind of out of her league, but to get better, you have to face the best. And what I will say to that is, you said it was not a great performance, and when you look at it, yeah, she got dominated. But the things that she was able, to attempt, I would say a lot of people are not going to be able to do what Dione Barbosa did, because I guess I am just forgetting every single time. She is so fucking good at jujitsu, bro. Like, there was a
Yeah.
time where Melissa like stood up and like Barbosa was like kind of hanging off to the side, and then she literally just popped back on her back. I was in the moment. I was like, yes, she's back to her feet. Holy shit, how did she fucking do that? There was multiple times where Barbosa was just levels, and I'm not saying levels. I'm talking like she might be a true Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. And Melisano, we saw in the Ultimate Fighter, she is already susceptible to getting a rear naked choke applied to her, and she fought the choke better. But I just, for how she acted after her loss, we got to see her behind the scenes, of course, from the fight. She was upset that she really didn't get to get anything going. And I hate to say, she's probably going to be upset with herself again, because, and I'm not saying she could have, it was just not in the cards, and
Well,
Bandana Anna, just, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Appreciate you though.
I mean, DC said it correctly. I mean, like, if this is a deficiency in your game, you have to address it immediately. Because, I mean, this is the exact type of thing that's going to happen to you consistently in the UFC. This is, kind of 101 shit right here. And you are correct, though. I mean, it is unfortunate that she went up against, somebody who is really good in this department off rip, because Barbosa was all over her from the jump. I mean, the takedown early was very easy. She's instantly sub hunting. She's looking for subs all over the place. And then, like you said, Anna gets up at one point. Barbosa keeps the control into a slick backpack jump, which was like, man, it's like, if it's not one thing, it's another thing. It's like, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, how bad could it get for you?
Yeah, she just had her number. It's unfortunate. And I really do believe, they're talking about a deficiency in her game. I truly, if I want to have hope for Anna, because listen, I'm not jumping ship. I believe in you. we're going to go ahead and ride this till the end. And Anna, if you are going to make the win streak start now, I truly believe that you went up against two really good grapplers. That's not going to be every single person. Not many people are hunting subs as often as what the Ultimate Fighter is one thing. She trains with Chiesa and things like that. So she already had a team around her. Barbosa, she is obviously very well equipped when it comes to grappling and finishing grappling. She's not just there to fuck around. Like she can get some good finishes. So very very good stuff from the two losses that she has. It's just I just don't think everybody she's going to see is going to have this ability. She might be able to that back take. No way. She's getting back to the feet. And any other matchup, she gets back to the feet and she at least gets some strikes off. Maybe she gets taken down again, but she got up in the open mat, and then Barbosa just did wizardry. Like she just,
Yeah.
sometimes you can't really do much.
Yeah, well, and I thought that she like instinctually at least was trying to do some of the right things. She was trying to pry the hands. She turned her head at one point, and I was like, oh, she might have actually created a little space. Unfortunately, she didn't. So it's like, the underlying instincts are there to do better. It's just you got to enact that. I mean, like you said, subbed here, subbed on the Ultimate Fighter. The assignment is clear now, Bandana Anna. Go and get this short up here, or they put her up against Priscilla Cachoeira, and then everything will be fine.
Yeah, gosh, that would be funny. No, that she's a bantamweight, pretty sure. But either way,
Oh
I know.
yeah.
Either way, Anna, I have hope for you still. But if you lose another one on my watch that I've seen with my eyes, and you have not won one, you're entering the category of I can't really say too much. I rooted for you, but once you give me not much to root for, I can't really. If I can't talk about you, I can't really say too much.
Well, and it's one of those unfortunate truths of the sport is that you can be somebody who's very nice and very likable, but like any other situation, you got to win your fights.
I'm glad you brought up, and this is a perfect segue. Being likable and being somebody that people care about, and want to see do good doesn't necessarily always matter, because this next matchup is another good example of that.
Sure. Well, let's talk about it. It is RJ Harris versus Alvin Hines, of course. This is the debut for RJ Harris, and he came into this fight with his wife beater tan lines. That was much discussed here. I said, how much time do you have to be in one of those to have those?
Yeah, no, dude, that's pretty good. Yeah, he definitely rocks that every single day, bro. He's very like country guy. He's from Ohio. If you guys did not know, he probably lives not too far down the street. But yes, the Midwestern accent was I heard it this time.
I mean, country is an understatement because it's not just him, but like with what I said, and I think that this was very true, but also to me very funny. Harris's team, if you hear Harris talk, the accent's very thick. His team looks exactly like he sounds. Like he's got this one training partner, I guess, put somebody in his corner that had a neck tattoo like on his throat. And like this dude was like he looked like one of the country bears, bro. I mean, like I'm just being honest here. I like no shade to him. I'm sure that they're all very nice, whatever. That he got the win. Obviously, I'm very happy about that. He seems like a genuinely nice guy too. So I'm really
Yeah.
not trying to be an asshole here. But country recognized country, dude. There's plenty just like him down the road from me. So
No, yeah, no. And this is, if anybody didn't know, I'll throw it out there real quick, just as a preface for when we break it down later. But out of all the fights that I picked correctly tonight, this was the one and only that I missed, and I'm not mad about it, because guys, for a guy that you have no idea about, you don't watch regional clips. I come in here and I know just as much as you guys. I know that RJ Harris is probably some blob. He's super tall. The American Shamil Gaziv. Who knows? So you can't really expect too much. But then when you see Alvin Hines come in here, and this is after 6 months of no roids or whatever it was, and this is where in my mind I fucked up. I picked the guy who's old, not very good, took an ass whooping, and not on roids anymore. That was my mistake. I
I
trusted in him.
and as I mean, off cycle goose not looking great. I mean, this was a this like the fight was quick, and it was like a classic kind of old school heavyweight competition, almost a mirror match, really. It was Guzzi and then Guzzi in a funhouse mirror with RJ Harris. The two of them look a lot alike, two big blobby bald dudes. And so, it's actually a shout out to Bloomis. Bloomis was in the chat for this one, and he had said it's either going to be a first round knockout or it's going to be a decision because they're going to guess. And this ended up being the first round knockout here. But that was really my thought process coming into this. And we talked about it last week that, it's the cycles affect people differently, but when you are off cycle, generally, unless you are a naturally gifted fighter, which if you are, you're probably not juicing
And
in the
he's
first
not.
place. There you go. I mean, absolutely the truth on that one. It just wasn't going to go his way, but I don't know if anybody really could have anticipated Harris coming in and having some decent hands for the little time that it lasted.
No, it was definitely a fun little spurt. Alvin Hines came in with a good attitude. I think DC said that he was gonna, that Alvin told him that he's gonna talk to him here in a few. So he came in there with a good attitude, little cocky, and it did not work out for him. And I think it was pretty funny at the end of the day to watch him react to when the ref stopped this fight. But he got real mad and he's like, "No, no," fuck. It was really good. But either way, RJ Harris, for what it is, I mean, good knockout, but there's just not much to base it off of. I mean, we've seen plenty of heavyweights knock people out. That is the thing. That is what they do. And, he got him with an uppercut, and it was a little flurry, and boom. And this is where I want to just credit the UFC production crew. Because after Dana talked shit, Dana talked shit a couple weeks ago, about the production crew when they put up the wrong name of fucking, what's that, Shakur.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
by the way, they did again on this card. They fucked up on the graphics for the referees. By the way.
Oh, well, that is great to say. We'll obviously talk about that here in just 1 second about the referee thing. But when it comes to, I already forgot my thing, but the referee thing is a really good point that we need to sidetrack. Did you not notice that Mark Coleman was the referee for
Oh
like
yeah,
most
what
of these?
or deflated Chris Tione is what I was calling him. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. That looks like Mark Coleman, dude. I don't know, like the old Mark Coleman, but if he was young, if he was like aging backwards, the Benjamin Buttons type thing.
True. Yeah. No, but you were talking about the production crew when it comes to the knockout here, and I'm pretty sure I know what you're saying here.
Yes. So they obviously gave DC the note, like, hey, bring up, here, look at this clip. He knocked him off the ground. See, DC, he gets the note and he says, how do you feel that you knocked a 260 something pound man off his feet? And I will tell you that this is the first time I've ever remember them doing something like this, where they were like, they honed in on something that was actually a really cool thing to see. Like, damn, he really did both feet. It made me think back, if you guys, and this is a crazy reference, if you are Malcolm in the Middle fans, there is an episode where Hal is speed walking and he's wondering how the rival speed walker is doing it quicker than him, but he was leaving the ground, and you can't do that. That's not speed walking. He was jogging at that point. So this was a really good point. You could see the lift under Alvin Hines, and crazy, crazy stuff. And I'm glad they really got in on this moment. This was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he took him off of the ground. He made him catch air like a goddamn cartoon character. This was Popeye and Bluto kind of shit over here. Pretty impressive. I mean, really, in the moment, see, because I saw it as it was happening. I was like, he legitimately left the ground, and then they showed the replay. I was like, oh yeah, he definitely did. He caught Guzzi dipping, took advantage of the position, had the power to do it. Good deal. I can appreciate all of that. Going back to the stoppage there, as you said, the Goose was not very happy about it. And I said, I thought it might have maybe been a little bit early, but then when I thought that until you saw Hines get back to his feet and he was running at the referee, basically, he did not know that that the fight was not over. So, it was probably okay at that point. And it's unfortunate for him. But cheaters never prosper, perhaps, unless you're John Jones.
Yeah, dude. Oh, and I'm glad you brought this up. I remember I had the discussion. It's like, if you get the call and you've been roiding, you can't do much about it. You got to just take your opportunity. But to your point, you should not be roiding in the first place. You realize that this dude is in a team full of fucking dirt balls. He's literally like in the Gable Stevenson camp. Like, it's crazy. There's other people too that they name that are literally cheats, poppers, whatever. They named a whole list of them. They were like, he's full of a great team. This is a great team to be around. It's like, bro, you got like the loophole is already, that's like, oh, whoa, you train with that guy? Like, come on.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely a good point there, and ever thus to cheaters. I have no sympathy on that regard. So yeah, shout out to RJ Harris. It's like so there you go. You got this terrible team full of all of these unscrupulous people, and you've got the down home country boys over here, just walking straight out the swamp and into a win. I can appreciate this.
This is what they would call farm strength. He may not be on a farm, but it's genetic at a certain point. I mean, look at that guy. He eats, that's like a Braun Strowman type guy, you know?
You don't get the tan lines any other way, brother.
I wonder. It's obviously not like a wife beater. It's maybe like one of like a generic Nike tee or like an AN1 tee. I could
Like a
totally not a tee
muscle
muscle
shirt,
shirt, not a tee.
Yeah,
Yeah, but like
yeah.
I can totally see him having like the AN1 tank.
Could be, yeah. Whatever it is, just keep wearing it and doing what you're doing. And shout out to him. He was very, a little emotional after the win. Obviously a very big moment for him, and he's got a daughter on the way. So, good deal to get a win and bring that home to the new kid.
It was a very good post fight speech, and I think it was kind of just funny because the UFC's on a time crunch, so DC was trying to give him his moment. Come on, give us a few words, and he's like, I can't, and he's like, all right, and we're going back. It was just like kind of it was
DC had to impart that it's like strong men also cry. So it was like dude, it's okay to be emotional.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I appreciate DC for that a little bit there. This tough guy sport, showing a little emotion is not the worst thing in the world.
Imagine if it was Chael. Like, dude, what are you fucking crying?
I was in there and he started to tear up, and this is just unacceptable.
Absolutely, that would be good.
Very good indeed for RJ Harris, and let's get this guy Goozy out of here, huh? What else do we need? Alvin Hines?
Nah, not for real. I think it was the illusion of a fun fighter when we thought Janice was good. It's like, damn, he got his ass whooped by Janice. Now we know Janice got beat by Marcin Tybura.
Yeah, and we have a better Alvin Hines in RJ Harris, so yeah. I think we're doing fine.
Absolutely, yeah. Goozy is the Goozler has been guzzled.
The goose got guzzled and gone.
Yes.
All right, I like it. Let's move on to the next one here. Of course, this was an interesting one to me. This is Alden Coria versus Stewart Nicoll. Now, obviously talked about it last week. Did the video about Stewart Nicoll. I'm a fan. We said a lot of things about Stewart Nicoll, all of which kind of were still true in this fight. However, what I say about this fight was that, because Alden Coria was the biggest betting favorite, we don't look at the odds when we're doing our predictions. We are, completely oddsless when it comes to that. So we, are impartial and not trying to be swayed by the odds. But Alden Coria was the biggest betting favorite on this card. What I say is that this fight, both fighters made this fight a lot closer than expected, I would say. Coria did not look great in this fight, and Nicoll looked better than we have ever seen him in the UFC. Unfortunately, that's still not great.
I am so happy that you brought it up because, yes, I wanted to ask, like, overall, what did you think of this fight? Let me start there.
Hard to say that like I loved this fight. It wasn't like the greatest fight in the world, but I did appreciate that it was competitive at least.
The stats do not tell how fun I think this fight was. And preface, I had worked in the morning before. Maybe I was getting to a delirious point, but I remember having such a good time with this fight. It was two dudes who were trying to win the fight, and it's obviously you have a big competitive match. I'm looking at the number the entire time. It's like, who the fuck would make this dude minus 1,200 against anybody? So it's right. The entire time I'm like, they think this dude is fucking God when they have their money on him, and they're watching fucking little old Stewart Nicoll put in the Stewart Little performance out here. I don't know, dude. Stewart Nicoll was actually cooking in this fight. I even think they fucked him over for 2 rounds. I think the judges could have there was 2 rounds. I think it was 1 and 2 because he got the takedowns. Coria wasn't even fucking throwing punches for most of this fight, which was crazy. We had brought up before that he just doesn't have that flyweight speed. He's not volume or speed.
Yeah.
He's got power, but he's too hesitant. He's too stationary. They gave him Stewart Nicoll, which is an obvious great layup for him, and he's he's flopping hard here because he made Stuart Nicoll look like one of the best flyweights in the world here. Like, what
Well,
the fuck?
he said it himself, and I thought this was actually kind of he didn't mean it as shade, but it was a kind of a shady thing to say. Like when he was like, "Yeah, this is the last fight of his contract, so I knew he was going to be out here trying hard, But there is some legitimacy to that. Stewart was really putting that work in this fight. However, the biggest problem, and I don't know if I said this on the predictions, but it was certainly clear in this fight. Stewart Nicoll does not like to get hit, and that is a major problem as a professional fighter. He's doing all of this bobbing and weaving, yet putting out very little by way of offense as far as his hand striking went. Now, on the ground, he was doing a lot of work, and that's really where a lot of this entertainment came from, because this was a very spirited wrestling match between these two at times. Like, there's one point, I'm sure that you remember, I think it was in the second round where I think it was Coria got the whizzer and he basically head planted Stewart. Like Stewart
Oh yes,
was
and yes,
vertical.
he did the breakdance move.
Yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
say he was b-boying. He was out there doing the windmill.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. That was a really fun portion of it. Yeah, absolutely. No, I Stuart Nicoll, for what it is, man, he may not be the best, but he put on a performance that I really do believe that he was doing some good stuff here. You're talking about him doing the bobbing and weaving. Yeah, it wasn't great at first because it did look like he wasn't ready to get, hit by Coria. But after he settled into the fight, he knew we had 3 rounds to go. He started rocking this little Philly shell that was terrible, but it was good enough. Coria wasn't doing anything, and that's where I really get frustrated with this. Is like Stuart Nicoll may not have been lighting up the world. But one, I was rooting for him and he was doing stuff. Two, Coria wasn't doing much. And then Stuart Nicoll was actually getting some good work with the takedowns. Now, they were doing it back and forth at a lot of times, but Stuart Nicoll had some good control. I thought this was a really good fight. At this moment, obviously, this was the fight of the night. I thought Stuart Nicoll was going to walk out of the UFC with 100 fucking grand.
Yeah, well, and look, I mean, granted, you make. I was talking about some of your points on the watch along, Chase, where I was saying, because somebody had said, "Oh, I mean, how the hell this guy is a minus 2,800 or whatever crazy number it was. How is he? How is this happening the way that it is?" And it's like, what you said, which is a very valid point. He doesn't make the odds. It has nothing to do with him. And it's any fight can be kind of how it's going to go, odds aside. But that being said, Coria needs to work on his wrestling, because it is not just enough to survive against Stewart Nicoll. I mean, come on, man.
Well, he just doesn't have, like, he has power, but he doesn't have anything that goes with it. His power may be a little, we don't even know, to be fair. Like, he has a lot of knockouts, but we don't know how it's going to contrast against some of the top guys in this division. Like, but when it comes to like his striking, he has power, but he doesn't have volume to go with it. He doesn't have like no crazy counter game. Like he really just kind of stands there, plods around. He'll pick his shots every now and then, but like I don't know where the volume is as a flyweight fighter. It seems like he really just doesn't do enough. And then he gets tired, and I'm like, fuck, you ain't doing nothing. Like I don't. It's crazy. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
it's frustrating.
Well, that's also how you knew that Stewart Nicoll does not like getting hit, is because, he's like, not even just the bobbing and weaving, but he just keeps such a tight guard on his face at all times, and to nothing. I mean, like if this guy's not throwing that crazy amount of shots, then, you're kind of cowering. It's bad optics. So that was a big problem for him there. And I mean, there it's like, it felt with Stewart, like you're saying that that the Coria is not doing a lot of output, but for Stewart, like he's doing all five of nine. He went for 9 takedowns and he got 5 of them. But what did he have to show for it? I mean, really, like it's like you're putting all that work in. You got to have the following sequence thereafter to actually. We're going to talk about somebody else who is in the exact same boat when it comes to this note. But like, it's not enough just to get the takedown. You got to have a plan thereafter. Control, submit. I mean, you always be working towards a finish. Stewart Nicoll, as we had said before too, just happy to be here. He's smiling as he's losing fights. It's like, bro, like it just does not seem like there is a full on a well-constructed fighter in Stewart Nicoll, sadly, which again, I don't like saying that because I like the guy, but it is what it is.
No, it definitely is, unfortunately, what it is for Stuart Nicoll. People are saying, how could you cut him after a performance like that? I mean, the losses are racking up. But the last thing that I'll note that I think I want to bring up to my end, did you notice when Alden Coria was walking in, he was in focus, but Josh Pham was not? Like, did we not understand? Like, who does he think he is? Like, what?
That's obviously poor camera work. Another note that Dana needs to give to the production team, really, right there. Josh Van
Absolutely.
isn't, it's he's Poochie. If he is on screen, he should be the focus, and when he's not, people should be asking, where is Josh Van?
They literally should. I'm actually glad that he kind of pops up every now and then. This is really good. He's very common around the UFC. He makes his Robert Valentine rounds when it comes to training and being partners and coaches. Love Josh Van. Even as the champ, he could be above all that shit. He could just take his belt and go home, but he doesn't. He's training the other people to come get his belt. Look at Coria, same division.
That's right, man of the people. The last note that I had about this fight, though, that I wanted to bring up was we talked about the referees a little bit earlier. I don't remember which one it was. It might have been deflated Mark Coleman, but the ref yelling at them in round two the second they go to the ground to work. I was
Nice.
like, bro, shut the fuck up. Commentary said the same thing. I was like, yeah, this is a little ridiculous, dude. Yet another referee that really is, chomping at the bit to become a part of the action.
No, absolutely. They do the whole don't involve me in this fight, and then the moment there's an opportunity to involve themselves in the fight, it's
Work
come
to
on.
improve. Work to improve. Yeah, we literally just went to the ground. Give us a second, buddy.
Yeah, it was not the best, but it wasn't egregious. We obviously didn't get some crazy early stoppage or something, so I'll give it a pass. But this fight was very, very fun. I appreciate Stewart Nicoll. I mean, for a third, there are often times you see a fun 30-27. There you go. And here it was.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, 29-28 was my ruling on this one. Stort just, it sucks, man. It sucks that the pieces aren't all there. Maybe Stort Nickel can be a second stint guy.
Mm.
Maybe goes out and gets a little bit better outside, goes back to the regionals for a little bit, comes back with a better, more well-rounded game plan. But for right now, it was not to be, and I would highly doubt they're keeping Stort Nickel of all people around for another one after four in a row.
It's Australia, mate. So they, I
Right.
mean,
It's
he
the
can get an
Solomon
opportunity.
Islands. He's the one representative from there. So it's like, underrepresentation, right? I mean, he can't be Damien Pinos representing for Aruba, but he can be Stort Nickel representing for the Solomons.
Absolutely. I also the last thing again, just because you brought it up, his nickname for Stuart Nicoll, the Kakamora.
Yes.
It's like some dirty gremlin hobbit thing. It's like that's a nice nickname that somebody gave you.
Oh, and it's like a legend on the islands, right? I mean, it's like a mythical, like a creature kind of thing that's native to. Well, like the story is native to
Mhm.
the Solomon Islands.
Yeah, but they couldn't have gave him like someone who's not like a dirty gremlin type of troll thing.
That's what they don't have a story like that.
Well, sorry. He doesn't get to choose what he is. He is the Kakamora. I mean, I've never seen one, so it looks about right. They've never been in the same room.
Well, maybe he'll come back in his next stint and actually fight like one.
There we go. Love it.
All right. Well, talking about this next fight, I just made the note and I'll make it again here. But this next fight is Ezra Elliott and Damian Anderson. This was a fight that was added to the card after we did our prediction stream last week. So this is one we did not get to predict on the show. Chase picked Elliott and I picked Anderson. But this is really a coin toss. Both these guys making their debuts, both on short notice. And then one. Anderson missed weight as well. So again, this was a fight that kind of got tossed together at the very last minute.
Elliott missed weight.
Elliott, I thought Anderson missed weight.
No, it was Elliott. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I really?
Yes. Pretty
Okay.
sure. Most likely. Chat confirm.
Yeah. Can somebody confirm that? I could have sworn that it was Anderson, but either way, Elliott is a student of Red Hawk Academy. He's a Tommy McMillen training partner and Sean O'Malley under Tim Welch. But what I had said in the Stort Nickel fight about having a game plan for your ground game, that is 10,000% the note that Ezra Elliott gets, because this was a long round of Ezra Elliott wrestling his way through and through, just basically, and kind of controlling at all points here, but very few actual submission attempts. So I say, what is the point of doing all of this holding of the downing if you're not going to have something to follow it up with?
Elliott missed. There goes
Okay, all
10-7.
right, fair enough. Thank you, 10-7.
My thing about this one, and we will talk about this in the next performance as well, is Ezra Elliott. He seemed to have a good positive attitude after. Obviously, it's not the performance he wanted, but you took this fight on short notice. you missed weight, and you had a fucking snoozer. I mean, look at the striking numbers, brother. I've often talked about you cannot win a mixed martial arts bout if you have under 30 fucking strike. Like, you can name any number that sounds low. Like 21 to 23 is crazy. And this is another great example of sometimes, and this is actually not sometimes, all the time, a fighter, the cardio that they have, it depends on what they're good at, so they could have wrestling cardio when they get tired, as Ezra Elliott has here. Sometimes when people get tired, they can still strike for a little bit because they're comfortable there. Ezra Elliott showed exactly what he will do when he's tired, is just wrestle. That's what he's comfortable with. He's able to just do that. And unfortunately for him, is he was trying to brute force his way through every single submission. I mean, you're kind of correct. There's not that many actual submission attempts because he was just trying to go for an arm in RNC, and the dude's just like chilling. Like, Damian Anderson, for credit to him, by the way, it's like the most Brazilian guy I've ever seen. This guy, and he does crazy jujitsu as well too. So we need to update the flag. Damian Anderson, please. I need you to represent. We need you to get on it.
I need you to be Brazilian, please. You're an American, but you need to change nationalities.
We'll talk about Delgado later. He listened. Either way, Damian Anderson, very good jiu-jitsu. I mean, when it comes to defensive jiu-jitsu, I mean, he's not going to get subbed. He was very comfortable. He was very confident that he was just going to not go out, And there was a lot of moments where, Ezra Elliott was getting the submission attempt. And, obviously there was moments where it wasn't just the arm in, he was getting some good looks, but he just didn't have the right angle to finish stuff. And Damian Anderson clearly knew all this. He felt levels ahead in the grappling, but it was, the moniker, the wrestler's going to choose where the fight goes. I mean, he just put him down every time. And, Damian Anderson really didn't have to do much other than defend the jiu-jitsu, which Ezra Elliott may possess, but he probably wasn't going to get it on this guy, especially with how he was going for them.
Well, and that you're exactly right. I mean, so like you have a wrestle heavy guy versus a jujitsu guy, so it's like you basically are in this almost feedback loop. It's essentially what this fight felt like. Because DC made a good point that Anderson, essentially his point was that Anderson was making the entries very easy for Elliott. It's like he's not trying to sprawl. He's not really stuffing takedowns like in in any kind of meaningful way because he's very comfortable being on the ground. So it's like, okay, take me down. We can just roll around for a while, brother. I do this all the time, kind of thing. But yeah, that was the pattern then. So it's like, that's fine if you are comfortable down there, but then you have to turn the tide at some point. You cannot just allow the cycle to continue because you're losing rounds, you're losing time. I mean, there's only so much time in the fight. You don't have a lot of options if all you're going to be doing is defending and basically just staying alive.
No, absolutely. And Hydra, I actually do want to touch on this. Ezra missing weight, for context, of course, I don't even think it's that big of a deal. I personally don't think he should have had a purse deduction since this was a fight thrown together. Literally, not one person, and it's like somebody who's training for, this was literally 4 days notice. They said, "You ready to go 15?" And he was like, fuck, I guess I gotta be, if I want my opportunity. So, and granted, he went and put in 15 hard minutes. Wrestling is not fucking easy, especially when he's actually, the levels are changing. It wasn't just like riding him along the cage. He was, taking him down. He was going for attempts, gassing him. He was putting in a lot of choke attempts. I'm surprised his arms didn't just fall off after all that. But this was just not that great of a fight, unfortunately. And we'll talk about what the repercussions can be when we get into this next fight. But Ezra Elliott, I think he's hopeful for another chance, and he probably will get one, but it might be against somebody better than he expected. But just going into the UFC, missing weight on short notice, I mean, granted, whatever, but not having the best performance and it being a wrestle. Like, if it was not the best performance and he stood and struck with him, it's different than just taking him down every time and doing nothing with it,
Yeah, no, to the point about the weight miss, this should have been a catch weight fight for that exact reason. I have no idea why for a pound and a half. I mean, like, this is not a crazy discrepancy, and we see like we talk about this in other fights in the past too. It's like what I still am unclear as to what defines a catch weight as far as like who gets it and who doesn't. Like, why was this not one? This is again short notice fight, like you said. Like, we just make it a catch weight. I mean, it's only a pound and a half. This is not a crazy disparity.
Well, I mean, just for technicality reasons, can you make featherweight or whatever? And they're like, yep, I'm ready to go. And there's no questions after that. It's not like, hey, can you make 137? It's like, well, we don't have that division. That's just not a thing unless there's a real, I don't know. So
No,
there's
well, my
obviously got to be some more stuff going on, I
I mean,
guess.
what I would, if I mean, granted, like you say, it's kind of a take it or leave it thing, but I don't understand why they give take or leave for certain people with that, because it's like when you're trying to fill a slot, you would have only 11 fights on this card if it was not for this fight, and that's a short card to begin with. So they need the fight to happen. He says, I will take the fight. I am X amount of weight. It's going to be very hard for me to make that weight. Would it be okay to make this catch weight? And then just see what they say. Like, I don't know.
Then
I
they
guess
they don't respond and they find the
that's
dude who's going to make it.
right, and I get that, and I do understand that, but I'm like, I don't understand why. Yeah, well, I guess you do make a good point. It's like, okay, you don't get a second chance to like to say you say yes, and that's what you just take what they give you. But I would say yes, and then be like, after the fact, call them back real quick and just be like, hey, can we do this? And but like, you think they would just be like, no, and then that's it.
And then you get the boop boop boop,
Yeah.
like, so.
You get the instant dial tone like in the movies where it's like,
Yeah.
this doesn't actually happen, but in the movies it does. Fair enough then, whatever. I mean, it sucks that it wasn't, but you are right though. I mean, like your ultimate point about this does stand. It's like missing weight, debut, short notice, okay, but then you kind of put on a snoozer that really no one cares about and makes it real hard to do a rewatch of. That's gonna be. I'm sure he'll get another shot. The fact that he is a Red Hawk guy probably bodes well for that as well. I'm sure Welch will probably make it happen. But
Well, my
uh,
thing about that is I think this fight was able to be thrown together short notice because obviously his partner is, on the card, and he probably said, I got a teammate that'll fight, whatever you want to say. But the things that we have all that we lined about, it's not a great look. They won't matter because obviously he's a part of the team with Sugar Sean. Tommy McMillan got a bunch of star power. Once this dude has a big comeback, everybody will be jumping on the bandwagon and they'll talk about Tim Welch's team. They'll be like, these guys are just a unit. They're all at featherweight. It's great. It's like, oh my God, like whatever.
yeah. And CTE makes a good point. It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission in a lot of instances in life. So, like we always say, pick up the phone. So he picked up the phone. I can't be mad at that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I mean, really, not too much else to say about this fight. Congratulations on being able to, get him down a whole bunch of times. Didn't he set a record? I think they said that this is like the new takedown record, right? 12.
Maybe, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So 12 takedowns in a fight, in a 3-round fight is certainly pretty impressive, I suppose. But that's about it for that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this is more to say about this fight. This is Levi Rodrigues Jr. versus Felipe Franco. Said, good job, Levi Rodrigues. You made me hate you so quickly, you doofy fuck. I
Well,
was not happy with this guy.
Well, let me say this, and this is just to finish my point that I foreshadowed before, is if anybody knows what having a bad performance on short notice can do for your career, it is a guy who has who has gone against both of these opponents right here. Somebody like a Freddie Vidal, who currently sits at 4-0, who is a part of the Ray Longo team, so he has connections, of course. He is known for what he did on the Contender Series. He had a real, a snooze fest against Felipe Franco, and then, got the submission at the end. And Dana White was pissed about it. And Freddie Vidal was like, look, I'm sorry. It was short notice. Please give me another opportunity. And then he goes into the Contender Series against Levi Rodrigues and gets knocked out. And then Levi Rodrigues pops for fucking roids. And then both of these guys get the opportunity over Freddie Vidal. So if Ezra Elliott thinks shit is sweet, brother, you could get lapped for doing nothing but just being good at your fucking job. It's crazy.
Can somebody contact Freddie Vidal and let him know that Chase still thinks about him on a regular basis? We got to make sure that Freddie Vidal knows that he's got a supporter out here.
What I have to believe, just to wrap it up, what I have to believe is that Freddie Vidal is actually like, he's getting the call up, but he's getting in shape because he really didn't look like a dude that really needed to be. He came right out the gym, literally right out the gymnasium, So
Yeah, I say call him at school, and let him know.
But so I really hope that he is going to get an opportunity because when I see a fight like this, what I will say is that Felipe Franco, when he gets a camp, I mean, he looks fine. But we've already seen what he looks like on short notice, But Levi Rodrigues, I can see why they kept him. I will say this because he is a dude at light heavyweight who tries to go in there and fucking bang. I mean, I'll give you that. He goes in there and he swings wild, and he's young and he's willing to get hit. There was a shot that Felipe Franco hit him with at the beginning of the fight that just fucking it had no effect on him because he's too young to realize what a hard fucking shot felt like. I guess because Felipe Franco just cleaned him, but the finish. I don't think there was anything crazy about the stoppage, of course, but other than the stoppage, I can't tell you that there was much else going on. I can just tell you that Levi Rodrigues, I do like him. They were swinging. They were trying to bang for a second. I liked it.
No, the only thing crazy about the stoppage, I said it might have been a little early, but the crazy thing about the stoppage was Rodrigues throwing a temper tantrum like a toddler. I mean, bro,
Yes.
you got to move when you're getting struck like that. It's not, it's not Franco's fault. It's not the referee's fault, bro. Get out of there if you want that. But
Actually, and you bring that up, is I thought this dude was a lot younger than he is. He kind of looks a little young in the face, like, but he's 29 years old. I mean, I get he was, that's his first professional loss, but the temper tantrum is not a good look for a 30-year-old. So,
well, and that it's not the only one though. I mean, there was in the first round, the second Franco clinches him up in the first round, Rodrigues is looking at the ref to step in. I'm like, bro, you make that happen. You do something about it. You're the one in the fight. Get out of there on your own. Don't be. Oh, what am I supposed to do?
he's the
Hey,
Muay Thai guy.
yeah, dude. Yeah. How about, I don't know, elbows, right? I mean, they use those in Muay Thai from what I understand. So, I mean,
Right?
it was ridiculous. Yeah, this guy made me not like him very quickly in this fight. But on the Franco side of things, I like Felipe Franco, actually. I mean, like, I
Mhm.
think that this dude showed a good amount of why he was the right pick here. Franco is definitely undersized for light heavyweight, but I think what he lacks in size, he makes up for in movement. Plus, he's got power. So it's like power plus footwork. He works well with both of those things, and I think that he's one. You remember the Tarzan guy from Bloodsport? That's
Mm.
right here. Good comparison. This is Pomola versus the Tarzan guy, right? Because he's a smaller dude. Levi Rodrigues, kind of a big plotty guy, like you said. He does have power in his hands. I'll give him that, and a decent enough chin. He caught Franco a couple times pretty clean in this fight,
Mhm.
but Franco able to maneuver pretty well, get his shots in and stick and move. I liked it. It also great grip strength from Felipe Franco. Gets the takedown. Levi stands up with the whizzer in place. Franco maintains the clinch thereafter, continues to bear hug on the cage. I was like, we were talking about that with Barbosa. Another instance of that.
No, absolutely. And I mentioned, him on short notice is not necessarily the best, is because obviously what we had with Mario Pinto, he filled in at a different weight class, and he wasn't obviously the best against Mario Pinto, but he showed that Mario Pinto is beatable kind of deal. So there was something to that. He's obviously at a more natural weight class now. He gets to have a camp, and he jumps into this, and it was a decent scrap for him. I really appreciate it. But again, you go back to the Contender Series matchup with the Freddie Vidal, that was probably thrown. Freddie Vidal was thrown together. I'm pretty sure Felipe Franco was probably on short notice as well. But the thing is his cardio never gave out. He got tapped at the last 2 seconds of the fight with Freddie. That's fine. But he was there, and he may have looked garbage, but he was still in the fight. I think if he just gets a little more experience, maybe he won't have those moments where he's just not doing anything on short notice. But I think specifically if he's taking a fight, if he gets into an opportunity where, or if he gets into a position where he's like, on 2-loss streak in the UFC, he takes a short notice one. Just don't expect it to be the glitz and glamour. I feel like he might try to jump into something quick to try to make a big bounce back, and it'll be the Mario Pinto experience again, or the Freddie Vidal experience again. But I like them for this. I really do like Felipe Franco. He's good at light heavyweight.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I say, it's really the height is, I think, going to be an issue for him. He's just it's going to be a problem regardless. I mean, like I say, he's undersized as in height. I mean, his
Yeah.
build is great. I mean, he's definitely muscular. And so talk about undersized at light heavyweight. He was super undersized for heavyweight. So it made sense the way that it all went down. But he's definitely more comfortable at light heavyweight. He's going to move a lot better than a lot of these guys at light heavyweight. I want to see him succeed over there. Plus, I thought he was pretty good on the mic too. I mean, he had a good, statement there. My story is being written now. It starts now, kind of thing. I'm like, he's a cool guy. I'm okay with Felipe Franco.
He definitely showed a lot of emotion after his win too. I kind of appreciate that. Like this was a big moment for him. I don't know what he was saying, but he was screaming something. So shout out to him. Like you said, good moment on the mic. He had a lot to say. They gave him a lot of time to talk, and I don't know what the deal was. This is a point that I think we'll get to bring up after this. They took away the mic time for the next two fights, and we had quick finishes. So I really don't know why they didn't let some people talk after these fights. But
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, couldn't say on that one, but pacing was okay for this card, so maybe they were trying to move it along, perhaps. I
I
don't know.
yeah, I guess so. Maybe either way,
But
but
yeah,
a good fight, good scrap.
yeah, good fight for for Franco. Rodrigues needs to work on his own fucking attitude and get better in there about actually being the fighter that he wants to be, as opposed to making it everybody else's problem. Another recurring theme of this card in certain ways.
And this, of course, is another one where if you are the guy who picked the guy who was on roids and now not on roids anymore after their suspension has been served, it was probably on you to that you took that. And I admitted my own fault. I admitted my own fault with Alvin Hines. So if you took this one, I get it. I made the mistake too, but in hindsight, it's like, yeah, I mean, that's what roids do to people is they don't let them fucking die in there, I
And
guess.
look, I mean, look, seriously, let it be a lesson. Not only for betters, of course, amongst us in the fan space, but I just made a video about Volkan Oezdemir and what he's going through now with his suspension. The cheaters never prosper in many ways. It might, the short term benefits do not outweigh the long term effects, and you're seeing it in real time in some of these fights.
Absolutely.
All right, next up on the docket. This is an interesting one. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts here, Chase, because we were talking about this one a little off stream, and I think it'll be a good discussion. I think we might have some differing views on this fight. This is Jean-Paul Lebosnoyani versus Seokhyeon Ko. First, before we get into it, though, Ko with a new nickname. Did I hear
You
that?
yes, what was it? Did you
I
write it
didn't
down?
catch it. No, I didn't write it down. All I know that it wasn't the Korean Tyson, so I was like, what changed here?
Yeah, I remember that as well. It was something weird. It might have been just Batman or something. It was something really goofy. But nonetheless, Suk Young Ko, not the Korean Tyson, that is a different him. This is the new him. And crazy enough, I really think he won this fight. I was pretty shocked with this decision because from the jump, and I'm talking this was one of those three, this was a long round type of fight because from my perspective, Ko had all the answers. He on the feet. Jean Paul would step in every single time, get destroyed by that jab. He kept trying to rock this high guard, he'd just get ate up. Every time Jean Paul would lift his arm to block, Suk Young was finding that shot right under his arm that just cracks him in the chin. Like there was the striking was phenomenal from Suk Young Ko. And then once you saw the takedowns that Lebosnoyani was, attempting, Suk Young Ko, the stats are lying here. 3 for 4 on takedowns from Lebosnoyani is not true. This dude was attempting stuff, and I'm telling you, Suk Young Ko had the answers, the scrambles, and the getting out of the submissions. This made me believe Suk Young Ko is truly one of the better prospects that we have in the organization right now. I'm not saying, obviously Jean Paul's on his debut, but we know that this dude's very talented. Obviously, he won the fight, so he must be. But Suk Young Ko, in my opinion, had all the answers for Jean Paul, and Jean Paul didn't wear. He didn't wear the attitude of somebody who's winning the fight. Is another thing that I'll add there.
Well, okay, I can certainly agree to that point, that exact last point. Yeah, there were a couple of body language things with Lebosniani that were a little concerning in this fight, but to address the point about having the answers, I will agree that he certainly met him halfway at a lot of points, for sure. I just don't think that he overtook in a lot of the sequences. That was my viewing of everything here, because I will agree that this to me was probably fight of the night. I think that
Mhm.
this, as far as competition goes, this was a very high level scrap. These two got after it real early in this fight as well, which I loved. Very active from the beginning of this thing. But I mean, to say that Jean Paul didn't have the takedowns, I mean, he literally had two roll through guillotines in this fight. I mean, so I think the numbers kind of are correct in that regard. Granted, he did not finish them, but one was more tight than the other. Ko did have answers for them. but he still got into that position. And as far as the striking goes, yes, it was nice to see the Korean Tyson actually using his hands for once. He's more known in for his previous fights for being on the ground, but you are correct that his striking is definitely very crisp. I just thought that overall, in at least in two of these rounds, that John Paul did just the better work. It was because it's like, again, if you're meeting halfway, there's got to be something that pushes you beyond the halfway point, and I just think that that's where John Paul tipped the scale for me.
See, and you are making a good point about the guillotines. You know, that was a good thing to see from Jean Paul. You saw an elite level of his grappling. Like, okay, if you try to dive on him, he's got the guillotine. You know, and it's good. And to that point, you know, we're talking about the takedowns. You know, you said he wrapped him up in the guillotine. It's yeah, Seokhyeon Ko, you know, he put himself in the guillotine. I'm not going to say Lebosnoyani got a takedown because he fucking fell on his back and rolled over. That's what he, either way, that's a different story. Seokhyeon Ko, after this performance, I think this dude is really, and we knew he was when he beat Oban because Oban is solid for what he was in the UFC, had a win streak, yada, yada, yada. Seokhyeon Ko, I think, got truly kind of ripped off here. And they knew they could get away with it too because it's just the you know the random Korean guy. You know he's got a new nickname now. We don't even know who he is. You know, and then Jean Paul Lebosniani, who is our big ticket. You know he's got so many fans in Vegas. You know how many people had the cardboard cutouts, whatever they have to say.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that too off stream. I was saying that just because he is a favored fighter, he does seem to be the golden boy of the organization. That doesn't mean that he lost here specifically. But like I said, this was a close fight. I certainly acknowledge that this was a neck and neck fight for a lot of it. Definitely not a robbery in my opinion. What I would say, like, going back to the point about them in the body language. Now, Ko did start to fade in round two, but Lebosniani looked like he was fading after round one. It turned out that he really wasn't. I mean, he was able to pretty much keep his cardio up to the third round when basically both of them started to kind of fade away. But it was just weird because like he was really huffy going back to his corner after round one. And then looked like he was going into round two. He kind of has this weird little smile on his face as he enters round two. But then, like he's still kind of like just the body language didn't seem great, but able to keep it up through that round. And then, like I said, round three, both of them kind of like were fading a little bit. It petered off in round three in this fight. It's slower pace for both of them. But it was concerning. Like I said, optically, it did not look great, especially for the guy who is supposed to be this golden boy, right? I mean, if they're trying to build this guy up as the next big thing, he's got to fight for 3 rounds.
Yeah, no, but this was fine on both ends. I think this is both of them walked away with either one of them, you know, could have taken the dub and it wouldn't really matter, you know, much or whatever. This was a good fight. Seokhyeon Ko, I think, definitely coasted for round three, but one and two, I think he obviously. I think he was cooking him. You know, when it came to the striking, he was not getting past that jab, and when it came to the grappling, Ko was getting back up every single time. You know, the it I don't know, and so Lebosniani definitely gets positives walking away with a W. He looked very skillful. He showed a lot of great levels to his game. Seokhyeon Ko, I mean, we know he's good. We know that this dude is fucking good at wrestling, and now we can see how good his fucking striking is. You know, we were asking for it, and now he changes his name to the Korean Jiu-Jitsu master, and now he's a striker. It doesn't make any sense.
He pulled the reverse on us. Exactly. Yes. Now, like I said, I don't agree that this was this was Ko's fight, but I will definitely agree that Ko showed some great levels to his game here. I mean, like this is the exact type of, if you're going to take a loss, this is how you want to lose. I mean, like, you go into a fight like this, prospect that is, has a good amount of support, a lot of eyes on him, so you're obviously getting a little shine off of that, and you make it an extremely competitive fight, one that has this type of conversation. Obviously, I'm sure that you're not alone in thinking that he won this fight. I'm sure that there are other people who feel the same way
The
about it.
South Koreans.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure the entire nation rocking with him on that one, but still, in the community, I'm sure that this is not an uncommon opinion, and that's what I'm trying to get at here is that, if it's that level of a fight where you're making it a conversation, then you did your job in defeat. If you're going to have to take an L, this is the exact type of L that you want to take. So I thought that he showed some really, really great looks in this fight. I think there's a couple of things to improve upon, the cardio probably being the key amongst them, but it was a quality fight. I really enjoyed this one. I think that this, like you had said in the Discord, this was a quality rewatch for sure.
I think what is most key for me going forward with Ko, obviously I've seen the layers to his game, but it's the attitude that he has. He's in there, he's really loose, he's having a good time, but it's as if he's, in a way, he's ready for everything, but he's not like, he's not getting down ready for the takedowns. He is just fluid. When you shoot the takedown, he just rolls with it. He's good. If you stay up on the feet with him, he's there. He's loose. He's popping you up. He's testing his chin. He leaves his hands way down to his waist, and he is just cooking on the outside. So somebody should be able to expose that, but he tests his chin. He's willing to take a shot. He will give more. And the wrestling is good when it almost seemed like he just didn't want to use it this time, which fair play. He looked good in the striking, but we've seen what his wrestling can look like. He has got 3 rounds of it in his disposable. So imagine if one round goes to the striking and then, okay, now we got a whole round of wrestling. Like he could just on a dime just have these at his arsenal. And I really like this dude.
Yeah, very true. I mean, that does remind me, though, one point, if I said that the cardio is key to work on, the other thing I would like him to work on is stop fucking emoting after every strike, my dude. I mean, Jesus Christ. We know that generally, when people are reacting to shots that way, it means that they've been hurt. I don't necessarily think that that was what that was for Koa. It just seems to almost be instinctual that he emotes after every time that he takes a shot. He's literally, he's wagging his finger, he's calling him on, he's got a whole arsenal, he's got the entire emote wheel over here, and he's hitting every single one of them. It's like, dude, it shows a slight lack of flow state, I would say, when you're doing that. Like, be locked into the fight. Don't, like, you're too, I don't know, your mind is too pulled in too many directions, it would seem, if that's what you're doing. Now, granted, I mean, he defied that, so do what feels right, but it just seemed to me like optically that's not great, because like I guarantee you that if it's the conversation with us saying that we know that you get hurt, then the judges are probably thinking the same thing. Oh, see him, look at him wagging his finger over there. That must have been a bad one. That must have been a shot that stung him.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if Joe Rogan's on the commentary telling him, like, yeah, that means that it affected him for sure. So.
Exactly. So, just a couple little things like that. But I do agree. I like him too. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him again, and we'll see if Jean Paul can kind of live up to potentially being somebody. I mean, we talked about it on the watch along, that apparently Jean Paul is being featured very heavily on the UFC social media. So I don't know if they're like we kind of don't really know why they're trying to build him up so much. Maybe it's his little Walt Disney mustache. Maybe that's what it is.
I think he's just got friends and family in the business, I mean, we've never heard the name, but that's because that's the name of the dude who's made the credit card reader. Like, you don't fucking know who that is. Dana is in the powerful people sphere. John Paul Lebosnoyani, that's literally like the king of somewhere, and he came over. But either way, the point is also, when when the entire card started, they're doing the promo package and they're like, all right, let's get these fights going. Let's start. And now John Paul was the last thing they showed. I'm just saying, it was the last thing they showed was his knockout on the Contender Series. Just, they want you to know who this guy is. They're shoving him in your face.
Well, I'll tell you something, Chase. Yama Industries is right around the corner when it comes to fighter representation. And once we get that off the ground and the stable is being built and the conversations start happening, we're getting to the bottom of this. We're going to find out. We're going to do our due diligence and our research and figure out exactly why Lebosnoyani is getting this special treatment.
Absolutely. Look up Lebosnoyani informant. Something might come up.
He's not an iridium guy, is he?
Maybe.
Anyway, all right, let's move on here. Next fight up is Austin Bashi versus your boy Jose Miguel Delgado. And when we were doing our watch alongs, Chase, sometimes you are very kind and you come over to my stream and you leave comments in the chat or whatever. Generally, I'm kind of locked in. I'm not really bouncing around like that. But this was one of the rare instances that I had to hop over to your stream and leave you a little message there, because I had to say, Jose Miguel Delgado, was this your boy, Chase? Was this your boy selling a first round knockout off into the sunset for a 29-28 from 2 judges at the end of the day?
Well, I'm glad you brought up that instance of it, because I will get into that. But when you stopped in my chat, and you say, I forget what you said exactly, but I thought it was about Bashi dropping Delgado, because yes, he did get dropped almost instantly in this fight. Delgado took a mean shot from Bashi, gets dropped, gets up though, so that's a good sign. He, for some reason, this dude just gets hurt. Every time he gets in the fight, he's got to get dropped or just trip. Like, I don't know. So all in well. Now it was not looking great up until that moment. It's like, damn, now he's got to win the round back. It's not just winning the fight. First we got to get this round. Don't take it off. You can't accept the L here. And then, yeah, we get not listen. The fight itself was a lot of Delgado just being in his zone and Bashi not being able to disrupt him after that first round, of course. But so Bashi drops Delgado, and then it's a little later in the fight. Delgado drops Bashi, and it was the craziest thing ever because when you watch it in like the replay, it doesn't feel as long. But in the moment, and when you know how long a couple milliseconds can be, he waited, bro. It was like deer in the headlights. Like, bro, Bashi was down on all fours, just like end it, bro. Like it was a nasty sight, and Delgado really just didn't pull. He didn't have that flip of the switch. Like the fight's gonna be over now.
Oh yeah, no, he was up on the cage. I mean, like, yeah, because the moment you're talking about was like, I mean, this is really there were a couple of moments here, and we'll talk about some of these other ones, but this specific moment in round one, yeah, after already having been dropped himself, but like he had him hurt, dropped him, and Bashi's back to his feet, and he's wobbled dazed on the cage, and Delgado is taking pictures. He's looking at him. He's really sizing him up. He looked like he was trying to figure out the right entry point for the shot. And it's bro, I mean, take your pick quickly and throw your hands. I mean, this was about as cut it and dry as it could get. Now, granted, what I say, and this is a point on the rewatch, because like you said, you made a great point with that. When you're in the moment, it's like go, go, go. And then, we're talking it through and we're thinking like, you're kind of fixated on that moment at that point. He did follow it up after that with a very big knee. So, I mean, like the sequence did continue thereafter, but Bashi, to his credit, able to tank the knee. And who knows if he would have been able to tank the knee had he gone further striking when he should have. So it's like what I say to all of that is that the small moments, and this is the primest of prime examples of the small moments in this sport mattering so much.
Yeah, this one is just because you're right. Like Delgado had the finish, and it wasn't that long of a moment that he really didn't, capitalize. Like it was just you could tell the split second past him. It wasn't just first instinct. It was he had to think about it for a second, which is not good. Yeah, which is definitely not good because he's now racking up a lot of decisions. And he was a big primetime finisher coming in here, and he still has the ability. Like you see it, he has the skills. He stays on the outside. For some reason, Bashi wasn't able to disrupt him past the second round, but Bashi, very, very tough guy. I think he just had something to prove at the end of the day when it came to this. I mean, it's not like he was going to win when it came to enacting a different game plan because Delgado, when it comes to takedown defense, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, this guy's got it because Bashi is fucking good at grappling. And I mean, it was almost like he was trying to catch an eel. Delgado he was in and then he was out. And the striking was a lot to be a lot to be something, whatever the fucking word is. But I just didn't love it because he was too slow and methodical. And I think he was banking on, okay, I dropped him clean. I can do it in the second round. Let me not rush it. I can do it. I can do it again. And he never really did. It's unfortunate. He broke Bashi's face like a couple different times, but
oh, for sure.
Nonetheless,
I mean, Bashi making it to the final horn was, certainly a moral victory for him after the way that this fight was going. So I give him some credit for all of that. But I mean, there was again multiple instances of fight IQ travesties in this fight. What?
Yes, exactly. That was my next point. Is Delgado shot for takedowns on Bashi for no fucking reason, and then he almost got submitted later in the round, in the third round, because he shot for a dumbass takedown, and then he ends up on the bottom for 10 seconds or whatever. But the point is I don't know what that was about. I don't know why he just decided to shoot on Bashi. Like that was insanity.
This is my point. I mean, like what I said multiple times, especially after not getting the knockout in the first. I said this is the same guy that in his post-fight speech against Fili was saying, I need to do better. I was not happy with that performance. I need to improve, and I want to show that I am the best, and all of these all the things that you hear fighters say. I don't think that he enacted it. That's what I thought. It was unfortunate. You mentioned that they didn't do interviews for a couple of these fights. This was one of them. I thought it was unfortunate that they did not do an interview for this fight, not because I think he deserved it after this win. I wanted to hear what he had to say. I wanted to hear what he had to say for himself after selling a round one finish in like just a very low fight IQ manner after just telling us that he wanted to improve his game. Like, it's like, brother, you have to put up or shut up when it comes to this kind of thing. Cause it's like, you have people that are riding for you because they have seen what you can do. It almost feels like you're regressing right now, even in victory. That's not a position you want to be in.
I agree. I think what it is, I think Delgado has he matches his opponent's energy. You know, he will play to the level of his opponent. And so going forward, people are going to be like, oh, but look at him with Bashi. Oh, look at him with the, this and that. I think when he gets to the level that he's, obviously he's going to keep ascending, the levels are going to meet, and it's not always going to be a fight, not always going to be a clean fight. I was even saying when I was rewatching this with my dad, I was like, Delgado, like, he isn't the guy that's gotten and given to him. He gets the fights, and he earns his money. I mean, he goes in there for a 3-round fight. He is prepared for it, and he ends up doing it more recently, but he ain't had the golden path. He has knocked people down and they've gotten back up. How many times have people got the opponent that just won't get back up, kind of, or can't? Delgado has got some really fucking tough opponents, and he has showcased a lot of his skills that are not going anywhere. The grappling was good. Getting out of the choke against Bashi at the end was also great. At the end of the fight, he's still fresh. He can still just flip around, whatever. There was things that he shows that are good, but the IQ, the just playing to the level of his opponent, I'm still riding for Delgado. I think he's still got it, and he's with a good team. That's another great thing about Delgado. He's got a really good team with Benson Henderson around him. I think if I see that motherfucker coaching somebody, I don't even see that dude often, but if I see him coaching somebody, he knows something, right? Like, he surely knows that this is the guy. I don't know.
Fair enough. He'll probably be coaching a lot more now that he's no longer actively fighting. But
Man, he's in the GFL.
yeah, did he actually one of the signees?
He was on the graphic way long ago, probably.
Yeah, we'll see if he's actually in the GFL now. But either way, like the things that you're mentioning here. I mean, like they're like I'm not trying to be a hater of this guy, and I'm it's good that you're still riding with him. Whatever. These are the things that are concerning to me, though. Like you said, the lack of killer instinct to not know to go in for that the finish where he had it. The fight IQ issues, going for takedowns that are unnecessary. These are all concerning things. And then, like you said, it is very concerning when you are instinctually meeting halfway with your opponent. You need to take the lead. You need to be the one going first. You need to lead the charge, because you're not going to have the opportunity against the higher level guys to meet them and then surpass them. You have to be the one surpassing from the jump.
The last thing that I'll say, and this is because Delgado, you're my boy, and I've been telling you from the jump, you should represent Mexico. I think you need to understand that they will support you in all of your hopes and dreams, whatever. So coming into this fight and last fight, it really started with the last fight and then into this one, of course, representing Mexico. This is Delgado. You just got to channel the Mexican fighter spirit, man. You got the ability for it. You just got to the switch has got to be on, man. We saw it with Hyder Emil. The instincts are just there, but like for some reason there's just like a block right now. I don't know what's going on, but we've had 3 straight decisions where you've hurt your opponent and you just aren't able to finish it. It's weird.
It's concerning is what it is to me. So, I mean, look, I say I'm glad that you're riding with him, and I'm sure you will continue to, but these are the things that will give me pause as we predict his upcoming fights. So again, there's an easy way to change this conversation. It is to fix the problems, as you said you were going to. Yet another thing that is concerning to me. I don't like when I hear somebody say they're going to work on something and then they don't. I keep bringing up Con Offley. I think it's an apt example of someone who, they were saying he wanted to go back to basics and rebuild himself, and actually did that. I respect that. I need that out of Delgado.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll see if he can do that coming up here. Shout out to Austin Bashi, by the way, too, though. Tough guy.
No, seriously. Yeah. I know we didn't talk about him too much, but very tough, very fun performance. Thank him for that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, next up on the list, speaking of Mexicans, this guy wants one. This is, of course, Tommy McMillen versus Alberto Montes. Now, starting this thing off, Chase, they were talking about it on the commentary, and I certainly want your perspective on this. Apparently, McMillen and Montes had a gentleman's agreement that the first person who shoots in this fight is a pussy. So they said, that basically we're not gonna shoot. We're gonna keep it on the feet, and they both, digitally handshaked on this. Montes is a guy who has a modified anaconda choke that is his signature move. He has a signature move, which is a submission, 7 of his wins out of the 12 submissions. Is this potentially the dumbest thing that you have ever heard if it comes to him actually following a gentleman's agreement to not shoot?
Listen. I think it is definitely possible that you have two dudes with an ego that they want to go ahead and we got to highlight that comment because it
Yeah.
is really funny. Jesus Christ, Tommy turned Montes into a sunset, bro. That is pretty good. But no, so yes, I think there is some validity that that's possible, that could be the idea. But you got to remember, Tommy McMillen is a wrestler. I don't think Alberto Montes wanted to try to shoot on the wrestler. Because when you're game planning, Alberto Montes took this serious. You were supposed to believe like this is a guy who is going to upset the star. He knew that he was a wrestler. I don't think he wanted to dive right into his hips because then I'm not in the darts position. I can't do my anaconda choke. I'm on the bottom. I don't know. So
Well,
that's the way that I would look at that.
I mean,
Just
but don't you at some point? How about in round 2 when things have been going very poorly for you at the end of round 1?
people accept defeat in different ways, so it's not like, oh, I'm losing, so I got to figure something out. He figured he was losing, but he wanted to show how tough he was. I mean,
Well,
he wanted to be the guy who got his ass whooped but didn't quit, and like
well,
that's the key right now.
yeah. I mean, I will give you that. It had to be stopped on the feet, of course. But so yeah, he accomplished that mission. Accomplished. Then you were certainly a tough guy. It was hard to put you out. Did end up getting
Well,
finished
no,
though.
he
So
failed. He's not the tough guy because he failed just like the Italian guy. Like the point is he needed to be the tough guy that got to decision. Like that's what people need to see from Tommy is like, oh, he can't finish everybody with his volume. But Alberto Montes obviously fell victim to exactly what our Italian friend felt.
yeah, okay, I hear you on that. Well, I mean, it just seemed like poor game planning here from the jump. Is what it felt like when it comes to how he navigated this. And I don't care that McMillen is a wrestler. I mean, like when you're getting popped up the way that he was, by the second minute of round number 2, I would have thought that an adjustment would have been warranted. I actually highlighted that Montez's corner talking about kicks between rounds 1 and 2. I said, how about talking about some fucking takedowns?
No, listen, another thing that I think is key to know is that Alberto Montes, you're talking about the game plan should have been different. Let's not forget that they didn't credit him for either of them. He dropped Tommy twice in this fight.
In
So
round 1, yes, the drops going both ways, 2 times for Montez and then once for McMillan.
yeah, so it's absolutely crazy that none of them got tallied for Montes. That's just funny enough. But the
Ridiculous.
thing is, his striking was good enough. Obviously it wasn't towards the end, but his game was, his grappling. But he had the power to sit him down. Maybe somebody else wasn't going to get up from it. But he did it twice, of course. And then you could tell there was a sort of game planning because there was this one moment where he threw the coolest thing that I think I've seen in the cage in a while. Alberto Montes threw a low kick, brought his leg back, and then threw the knee right after and caught Tommy right on the fucking chin. It was super slick from Alberto Montes. And it was that moment right there. I was like, this dude, he's getting his ass whooped. And like he's still trying. Like, I'm gonna just throw whatever the fuck I've trained with. We're gonna see what happens. But again, it was the ego that I'm gonna get my ass whooped, but I'm gonna take my L by the judges, and he just wasn't able to do that. The
Yeah,
ref had to step in.
couldn't accomplish, I suppose. But I mean, I think that just sadly comes from the fact that McMillan is a range goblin. I mean, this guy is huge for featherweight. He uses his long limbs to strike at distance and out of danger for a lot of times. He also enters like a madman. This kid is reckless for sure. I mean, like people love it, I mean, like that's the big talking point from commentary. Oh, this guy is who he says he is. Well, who he is a dude who is, balls to the wall from the entirety of the start of the fight to the end of the fight. Respectable to an extent, but it is very reckless. I mean, I think that the checking of this guy is got to be at some point sooner than later. I would suspect. Just the way that he navigates fights. The fact that he in this fight it didn't he could not finish this fight until round 3 with all the volume that he was putting out there. He gets dropped in round 1. So what I find from that is that questionable power in the hands, perhaps. I mean, obviously taking down a dude with the the Latin chin does speak to to potential power, but then to have to volume strike thereafter, somewhat problematic. And then also the fact that he is touchable himself, went down multiple times in this fight. There's going to be a fighter who is going to be able to exploit these holes in the game, plus a person who's probably a lot more disciplined than him that's going to play Matador to him. I mean, this guy is an Ilya clone, but the next Matador, somebody's going to just let him charge in like the bull, pull the fucking the red cloth, and then go to town.
Well, and that's the thing. It's Alberto Montes. I just don't think he had the skill set that was going to win this one because Tommy McMillen, he walks forward, he charges, he puts his face right behind every punch. Like he just follows his punches, throws his head in there. I think Alberto Montes, if he was somebody that had more elbows in his arsenal and he was obviously more equipped to throw the knee more frequently, I think he would have done very good stuff here. But I just don't think his game was long distance. He was not the guy who was going to do this for 3 rounds. Like he's normally, showcase the power and then we'll get the sub. But he showed his power. It wasn't enough. And he tried to take his loss like a man, and the ref stepped in. It is what it is. I think what's really funny is, first off, he did look like Ilya Topuria. Like he looks exactly like that dude. But as the fight went on and like his hair dye was like fading out and you could see like the through his head, he was starting to look like Cody Garbrandt. Did anybody else get this one too? Like somehow, some way, I didn't know all of them looked alike.
That is funny that you say that. I don't think I said that on the watch along, but I was certainly internally acknowledging that the thinning of the hair on the top was noticeable. It's unfortunate. Look, it happens. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it also is not the worst thing in the world to just shave it off if you can't keep it, my dude. You'd be fine bald, I'm sure.
And then you won't look like Ilya Topuria, and then people won't say you're the Topuria dude. You got to you butt whoop just like him kind of deal. But like, bro, you wanted to be the first Alberto Montes, not the next Ilya Topuria. Go bald, brother. It might be the deal.
Yeah, might have to be, but yeah, for McMillan, he basically just wore him down over time. I mean, it didn't take a whole lot of time after round 1. I mean, like I said, you talk about optics, man. This dude Montes, like after getting touched up as much as he was getting touched, he looked so bad at the end of round 1, and then that carried through into round 2 and into round 3, just shot after shot. McMillan chiseling away at him. It obviously just eventually was enough, and it made sense to stop it. Yeah, McMillan is out here emoting on him, putting his middle fingers in his face. It's like there's only so much that any person can take under the circumstances. So it is what it is with that. But it was less than satisfying for the sense that, like, I think that a better approach to this fight could have been taken for Montes. And I'm not sold on McMillan as well rounded as the wins might make him seem to some people. You know what I mean? Like, granted, he's Red Hawk. I'm sure that there's the team there is probably helping him a lot when it comes to the ground game and all of that kind of stuff. So the wrestling maybe better than I'm giving it credit for right now. But I'm not thinking that you should have had that as the go forward strategy. Okay, I need to be concerned about this, so I'm going to just stand and get popped up, throughout the entirety of the fight, and then look terrible as you're staggering around.
Yeah, no, what I will say, the last thing, just to cap it off for my Tommy McMillan, because I actually could glaze this dude a lot. I actually really enjoy this dude's performances. I really appreciate, it seems, it may be a character, it may not be, but it seems at least real enough that I believe it. It's like, all right, he's the crazy guy with the cleft lip. Like I'm okay with that. That's where these guys need to be. That's whatever. So I appreciate him for that. The post fight speech was, calling out a Mexican in Arizona was weird, but that's where the card is for Mexico these days. I don't know how that works, but the fact is, he called out, a Mexican fighter at featherweight. There's not that many options, and the only thing that I will say is, I know a Mexican fighter who fought on this card who has good knees. If you want to give Delgado one more chance, co-main event Arizona right now. I think it's a good one.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up. That is a potential for sure. I also heard, and this is a crazy Kev thing, so take it with a grain of salt. But I did hear that Santiago Luna might be interested.
Well, I was gonna say also, David Martinez could be another dude. Just make 45, brother.
Martinez way too way too surging to deal with this. But I
As
mean,
a surgeon.
wow, damn. Bars. But yeah, no options for McMillen. I'm sure that they'll figure something out. He's next up. So I mean, right? He's the next Sean O'Malley. He trains with Sean O'Malley. They're obviously liking the kid. He got $100,000 for his last performance. He's I'm sure he obviously gets another finish bonus here. They're trying to build the guy up. I think that he is going to get checked, though. I'm not buying into the hype that he is presenting, but I will acknowledge that when you're saying about the character element, nah, I think he's legit. I believe that he is the person he is portraying himself to be for sure. And you can admire the authenticity if you want to. When it's this person and he's being authentic, not really much of a fan.
The last thing that I'll say, and I know I said that a minute ago, but Alberto Montes, he'll have a good comeback. That dude's good. That dude is pretty solid. I know you were ragging on him a little bit, for not having the answers, but people can be broken. It happens sometimes. But I think Alberto Montes, for what it was, that anybody could have died from one of those two drops that he had that they didn't credit him for. And then also, he had good moments. Obviously he wasn't landing nothing. He was still returning fire, even though it wasn't necessarily going to work. He just doesn't have like a good counter back foot. He just had to sit there and try to shell up and take the shots and then return one. And it worked. He dropped him a couple times, but and he has a good submission game. So I think he really showcased some fine stuff for what it was. I think Tommy McMillen is just a better style than him for what this fight was.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Montes will come back and he'll be able to get wins going forward. This shouldn't be
Hopefully.
the yeah. I don't think this is going to be like a crazy setback for him. If he starts backsliding tremendously, then we'll talk at that point. But for right now, just realize that if you're going to go in with the striking heavy game plan, that you need that back pocket anaconda that you have to actually make an appearance.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you see Amasov start striking only, just know that it is a bad look.
True, absolutely. Hopefully that never happens. Don't even speak about things like that.
True.
All right, let's move it on along here to one of the biggest glaze fests you're going to get tonight, Tabatha Ricci versus Fatima Klein. And as I just said, the Fatima Klein glaze fest continues with another masterclass. Good Lord, what a performance from Fatima Klein in this fight. As advertised, I mean, both of us picked her to win this fight, knowing what we have seen from her in her previous fights. She came and did it like almost at an even higher level. The only thing missing from this was a finish for her in this fight. I really, if I have any, like, it's not even a major criticism because it's women's MMA. And, as you get into these higher ranks, it's harder and harder to finish your opponents. So it's a minor criticism, but that's the only thing that I think is missing now at this point for Klein is just that finishing ability. But again, not even a thing that is that big of a deal when it comes to women's MMA. And when it's paired with everything that she did in this fight, like, I think it was CTE. So shout out to him when we were on the watch along. He said it and I agreed. She's already ready for the big leagues. I mean, like, I said that she beats anyone outside of the top five and at least three of the top five right now. So Fatima Klein can do no wrong.
Well, and that's what I'm glad you started this with, because going into this fight, I didn't think she was going to finish Ricci. I mean, whatever you want to say, Ricci is actually really good at striking defense.
Yes.
She did not take any damage on the feet from Fatima. It was very rare that she was getting caught with something clean. Ricci, good distance, she's got the judo. So if you get close, it gets hectic. But I really think, she was going to show her toughness here. But the thing is I don't really think she even needed to. This was a good, clean performance from Fatima. But we've seen her butcher people. And I would say Tabatha Ricci showcased why she's been at the top of the division is because she did not take a beating like everybody else.
No, I agree entirely. I'm glad that you said that because that was going to be a note too. Is that yes? Shout out to Tabatha Ricci in this fight because I mean she did not back down at all throughout all of this. Like she really was in this fight, trying her best, trying her damnedest to land shots where she could. And like you said, striking defense was there for her. She kept pressure on, trusting herself in those instances against a surging prospect. It was just the fact that she could not find answers because there were not answers to be found. And that's just one of those unfortunate things with what Fatima Klein brings to the table.
Yeah, no, this was, of course, just another long round performance, unfortunately, but it was a very great long round performance. When you watch it as a Fatima Klein fan, I mean, this is 3 rounds of perfection. I mean, there was nothing that she wasn't able to do. And this is, when you watch this, you're like, you realize what the new age is bringing. I mean, it's just everything. I mean, they can just do everything. And then I think, and this is where I'm going to get a little, this might be a hot take because, again, we love Fatima Klein here, and I'm a big fan. But obviously, the new age talent, they all have it built in. What separates them is the discipline and the mindset, the little things. I think Fatima Klein, unfortunately, and we'll have to see after her next performance, she is tipping the scale into I'm the best in the world and God has chose me to be the fucking champ, So like
Oh,
I'm just thinking that a humble experience could be in her future because listen, obviously I would love to tell you she beats everybody inside the top whatever. But that's just not how the sport works. One night where she thinks that she is just on top of it and somebody is just going to be able to beat her. Like it's just unfortunately what I'm seeing if she keeps that kind of attitude. Like she trains with Aaron, and that's very very good. But now she has the I'm the best in the world. I train with the best team in the world. I can beat anybody. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You name it. Like I love it and I'm with it. But it is not the way that I think you need to be calling your shot unless you are expecting a very very big humbling experience.
I know I'm with you on this thought process because two things that'll lead into this. So one, I wanted to say she locks into the flow state in a tremendous way. I mean, Fatima Klein, when she is when she's firing on all cylinders, she is as keyed in as it gets. She has amazing positional awareness on the ground. Her striking also, is paired with some amazing movement. She's very fast. You put all this together and with her just like kind of instinctually moving, very very impressive in that way. However, leading into what you're talking about, the emoting in round 3 was getting a little bit wild. And I think that kind of speaks to a little bit of what you're talking about. I said that was the archangel coming out, when she was making these faces, because there's 2 of them. There were 2 faces that she made that were very distinct from one another. Face number 1 was tongue out, wild eyed, just like kind of, that's when DC was saying, oh, she's fired up. But face number 2 was also very telling, where it was just nodding and big wide eyes like, oh yeah, you seeing this,
We're doing it again. I'm doing it again.
you
Yeah.
seeing what I'm pulling off over here, you seeing how I'm doing it. So like that speaks to more of what you're talking about. I think look, that level of confidence, I respect it if you can pull it off, and she has been doing that. But I do acknowledge what you're saying as well. The highest of the highs, the lowest of the lows.
If you're gonna have that personality, you gotta rock it, and you just gotta be. That's gotta be you. Like Tommy McMillen, it's gonna bite him in the ass, but for now, he's riding high. Fatima Klein just to come out of nowhere and to be the emoting like, oh, yeah, we're gonna do it. It's another suplex. I was thinking the same thing. Like, oof, like this is not a good trait to pick up. Like as you reach towards the top, like you need to start respecting your opponent's level more as you get further down the division. After Angela Hill and after Ricci, for her to be like, oh, I'm dogging Ricci, like fuck, I'll pick her up 4 times if I want. It's kind of like I really just didn't like that side of her.
Well, the other thing, and again, this kind of goes to what you're talking about, and this was actually a comparison. Someone was saying that, that they were saying like, oh, flex of a prime rose over here. Well, she was saying herself in her post-fight speech that she was dealing with a lot of anxiety coming into this fight, that she couldn't even pinpoint exactly where it was coming from. Talk about the mental side of the sport. Rose Namajunas. I mean, she is a prime example of a person who goes through mental struggles. I'm not saying that they're exactly the same, and I don't necessarily think that they need to be part and parcel. And I don't even necessarily think that they need to be the things that define you in the fight. All I'm saying is that if you have anxiety that's coming out of nowhere and you're overcompensating with this type of behavior, this type of, because again, Rose with the I'm the best, I am the best, that kind of, this would feel maybe reminiscent in some ways of a little overcompensation. Does that mean anything going forward? We'll find out after the fact.
What I will say again to that point about her post-fight speech about the anxiety and things that she was dealing with, she had a weird moment. She was like, we all go through things. You got to trust yourself. If it's not right, you got to back out. And I was like, what were you talking about? Like that, it seemed like I wasn't going to be able to perform, so I'm going to step away speech. But it's like you just won the fight. I'm confused. Like it was a weird. I don't know what was going on there. It was
Well,
kind of an interesting moment.
you already said what was going on. It was her basically saying you need to give yourself to the Lord because he will fortify and strengthen you. Yes, Fatima Klein. We've acknowledged this many times. She is a very religious woman, and to your point, it's like if that does that play a part. I mean, we're getting a little bit deep in the weeds with some of this kind of internal stuff, but if you're seeing these little flecks of it, from her in certain ways, you could be right that there is a little bit of I am God's chosen fighter over here.
Well, she's just talking really. Yeah, she's talking really confidently now, and I feel like she never was doing that before. I feel like that's just not who she is, and now that she's kind of built up this confidence that she built, Angela Hill, Tabatha Ricci, these are veterans. These are people who are high at the level. I think I don't know. I just hope that she kind of tones it back down. Maybe this was just fight week emotions. Obviously dealing with anxiety. Emotions were high. Obviously, she just want to fight. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt, but the emoting and the talking as if I'm here. I'm built to beat all of these women. I'll line them up. All this stuff is like let's calm down for a second. Like we know that you're good. You're gonna continue to prove it. We didn't need this before for us to like you. I don't like that side of her. So
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, the archangel cometh, perhaps, but we'll see. I mean, she continues to move up the ranks. I guarantee you that they're going to give her a much higher jump this time because I mean, I think she went from 11th to 8th with this fight, I believe. She'll probably be fight. She might even end up being fighting someone in the top 5 in her next fight. We'll see what they end up doing with her. But yeah, again, all will be revealed as we go forward with her. These are all speculations, mostly because they're interesting to talk about, and also because she dominated this fight so clearly that there really wasn't any intricate details of this fight to pick out. So, in that respect, congratulations to her, and fly high, Archangel. We'll see how far up you can go.
absolutely.
All right. Before we move on, do want to give a shout out to Didgery Dave coming in and Bleeding Edge, who was here a little earlier. Appreciate both you guys hanging with your boys on a Monday night.
Absolutely.
Yes. Moving on to the next fight, of course, is Chase Hooper versus Mitch Ramirez. Hooper misses weight by 1.5 pounds and gets the job done fairly, handily, and quickly. What'd you think, Chase?
Well, I think we knew that. We knew that this was most likely what was going to happen. But I tell you, as the week went on, because we pick these fights and then the stories develop of what's going on. So sometimes I do get bought into what's going on. Chase Hooper, notoriously not a guy who likes to be in a big old striking battle. He's not necessarily the guy who gets really rough with his grappling. It's got to be kind of clean for him. He's good, but he needs a really clean fight. Mitch Ramirez, he got a bunch of KOs. I was thinking he might be able to chin Chase Hooper, and then Chase Hooper misses weight, and then it's like, oh God, like this is such a cursed matchup because why was Chase even getting a layup like this? We know why, but he shouldn't have been getting a layup like this. Another guy who can't defend jiu-jitsu. We know Chase Hooper has jiu-jitsu. We know. I'm confused on if they thought that this was going to erase him getting knocked out in the last 2 of his fights.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's absolutely what it was. Yeah. I mean, really, this went about as to the plan that we laid out as it possibly could have. Ramirez, not UFC caliber, unfortunately. That's just kind of how it goes sometimes. Chase makes light work of him, comes in overweight, gets this real easy layup of a fight. And then I crash out rarely on these, on my watch alongs, of course. If you watch the watch along, sometimes there are things that set me off here and there. This was not a very crash out heavy card for me, but this was one time that I actually did, was when Chase Hooper in the post fight interview says, I told my wife, I'm not losing 3 in a row. Not going to happen. I said, oh, yeah, no shit. You basically had this thing handed to you on a silver platter. Did you tell her you were going to miss weight as well? Was that also part of the plan? Like, what are you talking about right now? That this is, like I was so locked in, so focused, whatever, that kind of thing. Like having that sort of an attitude. Oh yeah, that was not going to let it happen. Well, you also came in undisciplined and against an opponent that was about as much of a stepping stone as you could possibly be. Like, this, I am out of the Chase Hooper business, bro. I'm cashing my chips in on this guy. I don't appreciate the attitude, and then also, with the gooner lull bullshit. I'm done with that as well. I'm done with this kid. This dude is not a kid anymore, and I'm done with this man.
That was my next point, talking about the post fight speeches. We brought it up last week. Like, yo, you've been knocked out 2 times in a row. It's time to give up the meme shit. It's time to stop being that guy, because it's not a good look when you lose. It looks like you're undisciplined. You're thinking of all the funny jokes that you're going to say in your post fight shit instead of actually fucking training. And I obviously, that's not how it works, but that's what the optics appear to be. You just came off of 2 finishes and you get a layup and you want to do the gooner talk. That's fine. But again, we know where your career is going to lie if this is what you're doing with it. You're not taking it as serious as you need to be, bro. Like, get on the fucking thing and say, I fucked up those last 2 fights. Like, I'm here to actually win you guys some fucking money now. Where's the deal? Like, come on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it puts you right back in the carousel. It puts you right back on the merry-go-round, because now the mission accomplished, UFC. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. Now he has to go back against another guy who potentially could finish him again. I mean, like, you keep bouncing him back and down, like any fighter like this, but him specifically in this case, of course. Like, are you going to be a person that can surpass that now? We don't know. I mean, you're giving us exactly the same thing that we always knew about you, and we see what happens when you're on the tail end of the bad side of the sport. So it's like, I mean, it just, there's no confidence that I'm gaining from this guy. And again, he's not a kid anymore. He's been around for a long time, and kind of the perception, because I read an article, I was going to look up, I wanted to know how much he missed weight by, and I was reading an article about the weight miss. Said fan favorite Chase Hooper. And I'm like, where does that perception come from exactly? Well, it comes from the fact that he's been around for a long time, and he was a kid when he started, but that time has passed now. You have to grow into yourself. You've certainly grown into your body. You're not, you moved up weights. You're changing as a person. You need to actually take that and move on to the next phase here.
Yeah, it's crazy. Chase Hooper, again, like you said, he's 26 years old. By the way, I'm 1 month older than Chase Hooper to the day. Yeah, so
How about that?
it's just unfortunate. This dude's got multiple kids now, and he needs to be fighting and having where's the professional persona gonna kick in? Connor got the glasses, he got the suit. He became mature. Chase Hooper, I think that is what your career is in need of, because Thinker makes a good point: is who is in dire need to see Chase Hooper anymore? You need a heel turn, buddy. You need a character change. You got to do something, because this has become stale, especially after you got knocked out or TKO'd in your last 2 performances. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, and like, I'm not even saying that you need to like completely change your personality, but exactly what you're saying there. Like, if you have to read the room, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be aware of where you are based on where your career has been. It does not signal confidence, in backing that horse when this is like the attitude, I guess, is what I would say to it. So yeah. So, I mean, we'll see if he can like continue to mount like a little bit more of a sustained comeback, and maybe there's a change of course, perhaps. But from what I'm seeing, I think that I'm tapped out on him. I mean, like, I'm sure he'll continue to get wins, but it might be a little checkerboarded, and I have no feeling anymore.
I kind of agree, but before we move on, I think there's one thing I want to ask your feeling on, because I think Hydro brings up a great point. How would you feel about Chase versus Chase for the Chase Championship? Is this something that you would go see at the Chase Arena, or?
Well, I mean, I'd be in your corner.
Nice. Okay. Gotcha. Good deal.
Yeah,
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for the question, Didgeridoo Dave.
Yeah, that was Didgeridoo Dave giving Hydra false accreditation.
Oh, did I say Hydra?
Hydra's just the default.
Yes.
Yeah, no, shout out to Didgery Dave. Appreciate you being here, brother. Either way, I mean, nothing else on this one, right? I mean, Mitch Ramirez probably getting cut.
I guess, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Didn't
so
didn't even realize he was here before this fight, so I guess he'll just go off back into the void.
yeah, unfortunate, but yeah, congratulations, Chase Hooper. Continue to not goon, I guess. All right, that brings us to our co-main event of the evening. This is Jared Cannonier versus Christian Leroy Duncan. Said, Jared is still the man to me. I am still a fan and always will be a fan of this guy. But I mean, I've been saying it for a little while that it is kind of crazy that he's still doing it. And a fight like this sort of shows why. Still tough, certainly still tough. Didn't get finished in this fight, but this was a tough watch as a fan of his because, I mean, really all you saw in this fight, in a general sense, was CLD with elbows, with knees, with spinning attacks, throwing the kitchen sink at him, and Jared clinching and holding. It's
Yeah,
not good.
this fight was unfortunate, but I think if you are somebody who has been keeping up with the podcast and you are of the belief that Christian Leroy Duncan can't perform outside the apex, it was a good night for you, brother. I mean, you had a good watch when you saw exactly what you knew you were going to get. This dude, it's so evident that this dude is just here because he thinks he can make the highlight. Like he really thinks that he can get that highlight KO. Because in the first 30 seconds of the fight, he throws like a fucking crescent kick from the inside. It's like, what are you even doing? Like, what are you even doing right now? Like, I don't.
To the point, I'm really glad that you said that because I wanted to highlight this specifically to that point. CLD's cornerman in between rounds was exactly correct. This was a quality cornering. He said, when you're doing it for the fans, i.e., the flashy shit, it's going how like not how you want it to go. When you're locking in, he was leaving himself open in those moments like that. It's like, I mean, granted, it was still when Jared was actually trying to put some effort out there and some offense out there. When he gets back to basics, that's where he's having the success. Now, in a fight like this where Jared did end up kind of fading over time and not regenerating like he has done in previous fights, okay, like maybe you can get the highlight there, but it's like if that is your singular focus, I'm glad his corner was there to like try to reel him back in a little bit because you're right, he's out here just doing shit. Like, bro, come on, like lock in a little bit.
Well, because knockouts or highlights or whatever, they don't have to be the flashiest. It's not always about that. A basic left hook can knock somebody out and it can be 10 times better than what Christian Leroy Duncan keeps attempting. It would be fine if he got a knockout with it. Like it would be really cool. But the amount of misses and amount of attempts that because there was an instance where Jared shot a single leg, Christian Leroy Duncan jumped and hit him with a knee. It's like, okay, it looks cool. Now you're up against the cage doing nothing. Like I'm tired of it. There was so many problems. Like I just don't think Christian Leroy Duncan has he has a point striker's mentality. Like he is here to do what I don't know. He just doesn't have that. He can knock people out. Don't get me wrong, and he can finish people. But when it came to a fight like this, I mean, the IQ for him to win and finish the fight just was out the window. He just wanted to he wanted to be Anderson Silva or some shit. I don't know what he was doing.
It's a funny thing that you made that comparison because I had said that he looked like a big MVP is what he looked like to me. Just bouncing around all over the place, trying to go for flashy shit. Yeah, like it's concerning because I never really thought he was that guy in the first place. So it's like if you're trying to be that specifically and then you don't achieve it too, that's the other thing. I mean, like, yeah, if he was out here like and making all of that work, if he was pulling the Mauricio Hoofy out, then I mean, okay, that's something to maybe hang your hat on, even though I think that there's still potentially a check coming thereafter. But when you're not actually achieving that on top of everything, it is a little concerning, I would say. Also, something else very concerning in this fight was all of the illegal shit he did.
Oh yeah, that first one where in the moment he went for a knee and you thought he whiffed, but then when they replayed it, you realized he kicked him in the head. And that was a funny one because Herb, no warning, no nothing, big deal. But then when Jared Cannonier grabs the cage in the third round, we got to make sure no, get your hand up. Don't grab that cage. Don't grab that cage. Go ahead.
It's all legal. It's all legal. If there are not going to be any enforcements of the rules, they're not rules. There are no rules. It's only when it's enforced. That is why what you're saying is very ironic that cage grabs are the ones getting called. He also poked him in the eye earlier in the fight as well. That didn't get
Mm.
called either. So I mean, there's just I don't know. Excuse me, not an eye poke, a nut shot. He kicked him in the nuts in round one. I thought he actually kicked him twice in the nuts too. But Jared didn't react to the first one, but he reacted to the second one. So yeah, a kick to the nuts and a blatant kick to the head, which looked like a knee but turned out to be a kick. It's like I
It
said,
just looked like he was trying to knee the grounded opponent. It's cool.
exactly. And that was funny. That was funny from Bisbing too, saying, "Oh, had that knee landed, Twitter would have been going nuts." Well, he landed the kick, so Twitter was going nuts. It must be nice to be a member of the commission, knowing that you are on vacation at all times. These people get paid, by the way, just so you're all aware. This is like paid positions here. So basically, paid for nothing. Just you have the do not. It must be wonderful to have a do nothing job, man. You clock into work and you get to just kick your feet up.
But to be fair, it must suck to have to put baby powder on when you put on all those like starched up clothes to go to your fucking day job where you have to carry a briefcase that has nothing in. It must be really stressful to listen to podcasts on the way to the office. Like it's crazy to think that there are people like that, but they are Christian Leroy Duncan fans, if you guys didn't know, because 30-27 across the board for the judging. I mean, it obviously nothing too crazy to think about. Jared Cannonier, in retrospect, we should have known, like, and this is just a problem that we have with co-main events where we don't have the correct setup for what should or shouldn't be a 5-round fight. Jared Cannonier should be one of those guys where if he's in a co-main slot, we should be pushing for 5 rounds. Like, it's
Nah,
just how that works.
I don't think so in this case, though, honestly, because the thought process, of course, always is Jared gets pummeled for one round and then regens and comes back, like rising like a mighty phoenix. That was not to happen in this fight, and it didn't look like if you had extended it those extra 2 rounds, it was ever going to happen.
It didn't look like it with RoboCop either. And he was getting pummeled for 4 rounds, and then he came back at the beginning, whatever you want to, or 3 rounds, and then came back at the beginning of four, So
Yeah.
it's not even, and I'm not just saying it for the aspect like, oh, he's tough, he needs the extra rounds. It's like when we are at the top of the division, if Christian Leroy Duncan is 1 or 2 fights away, he needs to be fighting 5 rounds.
I,
So
you also need to be winning in 3 if you're in a 3 round. So, I
yeah,
mean,
fair.
that's the unfortunate nature of this thing. And again, this is coming from like I said, Jared is one of my favorite fighters. I think that he's a great guy and a tough son of a bitch. Like, did not get finished in this fight after a lot of damage. I mean, there were a couple of times that he landed some shots, but really he was getting touched the fuck up. That's like I said, he was having to initiate clinches, not for any offensive reason, but for not getting punched reasons, just to defensive clinching, just to slow the pace down a little bit and give himself a little bit of time to try to come back, and have a little bit more energy to work through and maybe take a little away from CLD. It's not great at this point. Jared is showing his age. You got to acknowledge the realities. Now, I mean, what I said about Jared is it's the same with Caio Bahaio. I mean, he is a gatekeeper at this point. I would say is pretty established. So letting CLD through, that seems to be maybe a little questionable to me. But maybe I'm just a hater. So I don't know. My point is that like if he's going to be at that station, then you can't have the CLDs be the ones that you let through. But he also let Caio through, and Caio also has had his own falters. So
I think the thing that I would just like to talk about, going forward for Christian Leroy Duncan, I mean, his style is what it is. But I mean, when you look at his first, professional loss, it was against Armin Petrosian. Think about that. That is a crazy first loss. That's against somebody who is just a technical kickboxer, nothing too flashy, nothing too crazy. Now, Gregory Rodrigues, he obviously didn't get finished by him, so hats off to him, but it was a very standard mixed martial arts performance. This is taking Christian Leroy Duncan out of his ability to be creative and rambunctious. And thankfully, because he looks like a fucking idiot when he gets to just go on his fucking, if he doesn't have somebody who's going to like get their ass whooped in a very entertaining way, who's not Talulin or whatever his name is, it's just not that impressive. I unfortunately think I'm cooking once again is like Christian Leroy Duncan. If he's not in that apex, brother, don't expect too much out of him. This guy's not, he's just not him.
yeah, no, it still tracks. It still tracks even in victory here. Um, yeah, like I said, I do want to at least highlight one more time that Jared, when he let his hands go, he did have moments of success. They were just too far, few and far between, and CLD had way too much runway, which is exactly to your point just now. So unfortunate, but that is the way that it goes. Yeah, I did want to say you posted a reel in the Discord of Jared giving some very nice advice to CLD after the fight. Kind of ways that he could improve and stuff like that. Again, speaks to the character of Jared, and then also I do at least want to acknowledge from Christian Leroy Duncan that he also was very respectful of Cannonier in his post fight. So appreciate both of them for that.
There was one moment in the fight that I think we would be remiss not to bring up and talk about because it was interesting. I don't know what exactly was going on. So Christian Leroy Duncan lands a big, powerful shot on Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier steps back and his hands like retract very slowly. I don't know what was going on there.
That was an interesting emote indeed. Yeah,
I don't
somebody.
think it was an emo, dude. I think he was trying to like wave him on or something, and his hands did something different, you
Well,
know?
that was yeah. See, the reason I said it was an emo was I think somebody in the chat had said that he might have been trying to emote but didn't know where he was. but,
Mm.
but yeah, no, that was interesting there too. The other thing I'm so glad that we didn't move on before I said this too. There have been times, Chase. I know that you hate this when you talk about fighters and they're running in fights. They're running away. They're not wanting to engage in action. I never want to hear about running in a fight ever again if it doesn't look like Jared Cannonier running in round one of this fight, because he did a literal sprint. There has never been more clear actual running. I mean, the octagon didn't even seem big enough to contain him for the amount of running he did for how fast he was going.
And you know what's crazy? And as somebody who is a Jared fan, I'm glad you make it known, and I'm glad you brought this up because this is nothing new. We've seen this a couple different performances. Kaio made him do that. Imavov made him do that, bro. There are just times where he's just got to book it out of there. He's like, well, the cage will stop over this way, so I just got to get over here, man.
Gotta
It's
go.
yeah, it is something to behold, but he does get away with it, because he built up a good reputation of being tough. He's like, all right, fuck it, I got to get away somehow now. So.
Who do you think could win in a foot race, him or Chelsea Chandler?
Um, CJ Vergara, if you remember him running across the cage, that's another track star. So I appreciate him for making it competitive with Jared.
Yeah, get there out in the combine. We'll see who can win that one. But either way, look, not. It's a good win. It's a fine win for CLD. It's, I don't want to, I feel like, maybe we're coming down a little bit hard on him. He did win this fight handily, 30-27s across the board.
I don't think I'm going hard enough on this dude, bro. Like you have Jerry Cannonier is tough, but that means that you have free reign to just whoop his fucking ass at times. He can counter you and have a good powerful shot, and he'll make it look competitive, and he'll land his moments. But for the most part, what Kaio, what Imavov were able to do, that was supposed to be Christian Leroy Duncan. He was supposed to be the guy. Like I said on the predictions, I figured he was going to be the guy to actually, start putting Jared down. But it looks like the Killer Gorilla will go on once more.
Yeah. I mean, he did dominate this fight, though. I
It
mean,
was not domination. I mean, he hurt him a few times, but that was not, bro. What Kaio and Imavov made Jared look like was domination. What Gregory Rodrigues was doing before he got knocked out was domination. This was, at best, a lukewarm performance from Christian Leroy Duncan. Like it just was not it.
maybe for Kyle. Imavov was the early stoppage.
Either
But
way,
fair. Whatever. Either yeah, well, I don't know. I maybe I'll be a little more generous to CLD then. He did look impressive enough in the times where he was actively striking and not in a crazy, outlandish, flashy way, I guess is what I would, be generous perhaps.
it's just unfortunate because that with all that flash, glitz, and glam, the champion right now currently will beat that with just a jab and a teep. Like that's the unfortunate reality. If Armin Petrosian got over on you, I mean, Sean Strickland's one of the best in the game ever when it comes to striking. So,
Yeah.
and he already beat somebody who you're like fourth generations down from when it comes to like, he beat Izzy and you're not MVP and you're not Wonder Boy. And, here you are. So I think it's interesting for Christian Leroy Duncan going forward, but I'm going to be real, guys. At middleweight, think about who the fuck is there. This guy's not getting the belt unless he's 34 years old and he really is dedicated. Like it's gonna take a while.
Yeah, no, I mean, and he's in the right place at the right time is really I think what's going on there too. We had the Izzy era come to an end, Sean, Dricus, like that, portion of time here underneath in the division is shaken up now a little bit more. It's kind of evolving a little bit, in real time. He's on the wave of the evolution, but as that like sorts itself out into like the new composition of that division, that's where I think he's going to start having the real problems. Once you start, like the changeover, like really takes hold, that I think he's going to probably end up having to shake out at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah, once they actually give him a decent stylistic matchup and not just a guy who's gonna strike with him, like it'll get interesting.
Yeah, perhaps. But in this moment, a win's a win over there. And Jared Cannonier, how much longer, man? I don't know.
Oh, he can still do it.
Oh no, he can still do. I'm worried about Jared being one of those dudes that never hangs it up, though. You know what I mean? Like he's already himself talked about. I need to fight. He's a money fighter. I got a family to feed, kind of thing. And it's like
He's a money weight fighter.
true. We'll talk about one of them in a second. But yeah, he certainly still can. I like it would probably be appropriate if the organization it favors him. If they like Jared Cannonier, you drop him down and he maybe gets some up and comers who, that sort of that middle ground. You know what I mean? Maybe eventually he ends up with some contender series debutantes kind of deal. Not yet. I don't think he's there yet. Hopefully not. But
No.
I'm still worried about it though. Wait, he's 42 years old?
Yeah. 43 now.
Oh, there you go. So we'll see. But either way, shout out CLD.
Yeah.
All right.
No, he's still 42. I'm sorry.
Okay, 42. There you go. But still a fan, regardless.
Now at 43, we'll talk about fandom. But
that's where obviously you got to draw a line somewhere. But all right, either way, that brings us to the main event of the evening. Of course, Dricus du Plessis versus Kamaru Usman. This kind of went as expected to an extent. I think that maybe Kamaru did a little bit better than people might have anticipated. I don't think anybody could have anticipated the lack of takedown attempts. I think from Kamaru was like the big thing. Fucking bullshit. Give me a break. 7. Who tallies these fucking numbers? God damn it. 7, please. I just rewatched that fight. You can maybe get for actual legitimate attempts, like where he really was going for it and not just reaching for the leg, maybe 3 over a 5-round fight. Give me a fucking break on 7. But either way, point is that it was certainly not enough to make any kind of meaningful impact on this fight. I think he only really successfully got one of them, even though they didn't tally that. But yeah, I think that was really the only thing that was very surprising here. Because he didn't go for that route, he had to strike with Dricus. And we were talking about that on the watch along. So many people trying to stand with Dricus who really should not be.
Yeah, that's really where it came down to. I knew Dricus had, and this was me, being a little overzealous. I knew DDP had more skills than Kamaru Usman. I mean, and it showed in this fight. This was total domination, of course. Aside from whatever round you want to say that he took off that they gave Kamaru Usman, sure, whatever. The point is that I think is really key here because Dricus du Plessis had an all-time performance from round 1 through 3, and then 4 and 5 hit him a lot harder than I think I really was expecting to see. He's the former champ. He's had that experience, but that 4th and 5th round, he was gassed. And we always talk about how he's got that ability where he looks tired, but he's really not. He didn't die, of course. He finished the fight and he finished on top. Won the round. But to that point, I think, and this is that was just for context. And to that point, I think Kamaru Usman on that the opposite side of that, you learn from your losses, right? The loss is the secret recipe for success. Sometimes shout out Conor McGregor and the review we did, but I think this was the fight where we saw what Kamaru Usman learned from the loss with Leon Edwards. Hear me out, because at no point did Kamaru Usman give up on himself in this fight. It was the 5th round, and you still saw that he thought he was going to win this, and he thought he was going to win by decision. We'll talk about that in a second, but he thought he was going to win this by finish, and I really think in his mind, he I started coasting against Leon. Them last 30 seconds, if I would have just actually been in there, I would have won. But Leon had that ability to just never give up on himself. I need to channel that, and you really saw a lot of Usman's heart in this. And I'm not necessarily saying that I loved a lot of the portions from Usman here, because there was a lot of whining to the ref, and this was very, very annoying. But all that aside, he was very, very tough. He really took an ass whooping, and at no point did he think he was going to lose. And I think that's why 4 and 5 was so interesting, is because Dricus did start to slow, and Usman actually started to pick it up, and it was getting worrisome. I'm not going to lie. Like Usman, he kind of looked like he was packing a little power late. Dricus was starting to, he was taking big old huffs, and then Usman was working the body a little bit. It was an interesting fight because Usman actually brought some fucking dog in here. And I really appreciate that, because he got wobbled all over the place. He was getting hurt, but he never gave up on himself. And I think this was the moment I saw where he learned from Leon. That I don't change my game. What he did in that second fight, he came in with a different game plan. No, that's not me. I come in here and I fight my game. And if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose, but I'm still going to have the idea that at some point I'm going to finish the fight before it ends. So shout out to Usman for that regard. But Dricus du Plessis just had every answer up until 4 and 5. It was definitely a little sketchy.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, Kamaru's still tough in his old age. I mean, Dricus was really putting on a pretty good performance here, in his terms. I mean, right, everybody talks about the unorthodox way that he conducts himself in fights, but for that composition of how he approaches fights and his sort of peculiar movement and methods, really solid work in this fight for him. But I mean, Kamaru tanking a lot of damage and being able to weather the storm in a lot of times. I mean, he was rocked several times in this fight pretty clearly. I mean, he went dwanky legged for a couple of times here. That the knee in the second round, that was a flush shot. Now, people were saying, oh, it was the knee that made him apprehensive about shooting. I don't really think that that's what it was. Because like he wasn't really even at that point even attempting to shoot. He was fainting a takedown at that point. He was really just reaching for the leg and got caught with the knee. So it's like, I don't know if the game plan was to, like, again, just like say I can stand with the best of them still kind of thing, but it needed to be adjusted earlier in this fight because it was starting to become problematic very early. Now, I do agree with you that, like, because he is so tough and still so tough, so shout out to him for that, in his later stage of his career and, and fighting life, being able to be that tough and to have that tenacity in him, to put that forward. With that even being the case, there needed to be a change of pace, earlier in this fight for him. I mean, by the time he actually went for a takedown, like an actual legitimate one, I believe it was like maybe round 3 or 4, and Dricus popped right back up at that point. It's like, dude, you're obviously there's a problem if you're waiting that long for it. Now you could say, oh, maybe he was waiting for him to gas out, and if by round 4 Dricus was starting to look a little bit worse, maybe that was just the right opportunity. But again, I think it was just a poor approaching of this type of fight, because I still think, even as a former champion, there are some people, Kamaru being very self-aggrandizing to an extent, very, very headstrong, maybe a better way to put it. I still think maybe underestimating Dricus du Plessis a little bit.
The one thing that I find interesting, you're talking about, headstrong, Kamaru Usman, this guy, he really thought he won this fight. He was upset at the judge's call when it was read
Well,
50-45. Listen, when you're in the fight, obviously, you get hit. You don't really know if it's, if you're wobbled, you don't necessarily, I don't know how it necessarily works. Maybe he's not necessarily understanding how bad of a shot he took, kind of deal. But I mean, yeah, it was like 8 different times that the dude was falling over and getting hit really hard. He got punched in the eye and complained. He got punched in a flurry, and then when he hit the cage, he looked at the ref like, "You gonna let him back me up? You gonna let him do that, bro?" Like,
yeah, no. So the conduct of Kamaru Usman is really, I think, where he loses the most respect after this. It shows a lack of self-respect, really, almost more than anything. What's up, Chase?
well, the last thing, and this is going to the point of it, and you want to talk about, the way that he's conducting himself. Before this fight, Kamaru Usman had came out and said that he's a money-weight fighter. I go where the money is now. First off, horrible look for you if you're still trying to chase some sort of glory. Second, you're not that big of a draw, brother. These are not the words that you should be using.
For
And
sure.
and third, who the fuck is gonna want to pay for the dude who complains every time the other guy's about to finish him? Like a good fighter will take his loss. Like I said that about Connor. With Connor and Max, Connor was willing to go get knocked out like that. He wanted the excitement of that fight to happen for those fans. But Kamaru Usman gets punched in the fucking eye. Stops the finishing sequence, complains to the ref. The ref says no, get back in there, and he's still going. What?
Yeah,
So
so to address that portion of things, yes. I mean, there were a number of times that Kamaru was, complaining, and in the moment they were definitely questionable. The one with the knuckle to the eye, that's the one you're talking about. I Not right, that he obviously he it was a legal shot. He should have just taken it, but it's not that he thought it was a poke that was the problem, because yeah, it might have felt like a poke in the moment, but when the ref says get back in there and you're still complaining after the fact, that's a bit problematic, I would say.
and that's exactly the point that I wanted to make next, because there's a perfect correlation, or a perfect opposite side of that when you get later in the fight, of course. So you watch Dricus just sock the fuck out of Usman in the eye. You see it clear as day on the monitor, and when they get back to they're still not even fighting. So that was the issue, because Usman wanted to fucking complain. But then you get later in the fight where Dricus lands a kick and Usman says it's low. And he's like, no, 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 that ain't low, buddy. No. And then they go to the replay and they see it's low. And he's like, all right, my bad. That was low. Let's get back into it. It's like Usman, on the other hand, as soon as he heard the verdict, it's like, bro, what the Dricus, on the other hand, as soon as he heard the verdict, all right, my bad. Let's get back into it. Like it's just the champion and takes himself professional as ever. You have the former champion who is still holding on to everything. It needs the ref to fucking save him. I don't know.
Well, all right. So the other one, though, I did want to address that one, because so there was the later time that Kamaru was complaining, and to be fair to him, and maybe this is just me doing a little bit of detective work on this, but in fairness to him, what I think he was actually complaining about in the fourth round might have been that he it didn't seem that there were any actual pokes from it, but Dricus was pushing his face often in
Yes.
this fight. So I thought maybe there, and look, you have to have an open palm to do what he was doing. So fingers close enough to eyes, maybe, just something like that. Like, hey, it might, he might be getting a little bit too close for comfort kind of thing. I at least wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt in that respect. But really, again, it all goes out the window when we're talking about after the fight, because a savvy veteran move over here of Kamaru Usman to take the gloves off in order to get the octagon interview, and then just use that time to say, I don't know what these judges were seeing. What fight were they watching? It's like,
Yeah.
brother, you're pulling a Clay Guida over here, taking the gloves off and then saying something completely different,
Yeah, this was just not a good look for Kamaru Usman. I mean, I get it, man. You were at once the top of the game, and the game comes quick as for some people, and a lot of people don't know how to handle it. The record that he has in his last recent, he's what, 1-4, like 1-3 or something. It's just not a good look, and I don't think you complaining about the judges and or being confused about the judge's call and or complaining to the ref consistently, and I don't think these are all going to get you what you are expecting out of it. I think it's only going to, one, make the people who are rooting for you kind of like, fuck, man, like, well, this dude, come on. And you're also just going to make newer people who are finally getting to see the money weight fighter. This is the prime time Usman. That's what we got to see, is the dude who every single time he gets hit, he's like looking at the ref like, are you like, what are you doing? Why would you let him do that? Like, it was frustrating, because yes, Usman is tough. I really appreciated him not getting finished, because I thought he was, but the fact that he didn't was more on DDP not fucking pressing it. But every time he was doing it, Usman had something to say to the ref, and like, you can't have two people compete like that. The ref didn't fucking tell, like, hey, stop fucking fight. Like, what are you talking to me for? Don't look at me. Look at him. If there's something wrong, I'm the referee. You are not my fucking, helper. I don't know. It's crazy.
No, I agree. Yeah, yeah. It's a bad look. It's a bad way to conduct yourself, especially for someone claiming to still want to be chasing glory. Like you said, I think that it does not track well, and it definitely does not endear you to anyone, including the organization. So, unfortunate in that regard for him. Yeah, I see. Jeremy, shout out to Jeremy, of course. Also, shout out to Swoon Thorpe.
And Tyler.
Oh yeah, and obviously Tyler, appreciate you all. Thank you all for being here. But no, Jeremy saying that Usman needs to go up to light heavyweight, brother. I think that this is something that I had said on the predictions, and should bears repeating here. Kamaru did not look to be properly sized for middleweight. To think that he would go up another weight makes no sense whatsoever, in my opinion. I think that was a big part of the problem in this fight, not being able to throw your weight around. I mean, like, I don't think that he was having the advantages that way. Drake is bulkier than him, so if he did get his hands on him, don't know if it would have gone the way that he wanted it to anyway. But he, like you had said too, Chase, this kind of goes to the point of him being cocky, the way he conducts himself after the fight. Too much of a believer in himself to go the Hamzat route, to try to just lay on him or whatever. Might have been a smarter move if he had known that this was how it was going to go, but obviously not to be. So I just, a lot of elements of this fight not really working out for Kamaru, and ultimately, like, this fight was not entirely satisfying in general to me. I was not like super like entertained by this fight, to be
It
perfectly
was
honest.
long.
It was 5 long rounds, and I think the problem is that with Dricus's style, when he doesn't have a dance partner that complements the style, or at least that kind of yin and yangs with him, like, better than what this was, it's not like that. I don't know. There's just like, there's not enough to sink your teeth into. Like, by the time that this fight was on, I mean, like, I had kind of hit the wall. I enjoy my Red Bull, and sometimes those would make you crash. And I was kind of feeling a little bit woozy watching this one. Like, man, I'm not getting the like oh, you must pay attention to this feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely get that. But the last thing that I think I want to bring up is that, well, there's two things. So, future opponents, Kamaru Usman versus Bilal. We think this should happen. Yes.
Sure, if you want.
Nice.
Well, I mean,
I
like,
would hope.
is that does people people care about that? People want that?
He slapped him on his podcast, man. We got to see this handled in the cage.
Oh, true. Yeah, I guess there's a built-in storyline there. Does anybody even remember that besides us?
No, because Kamaru Usman scrubbed it from the internet, brother. He did his thing.
Yeah, FBI Kamaru.
And the last thing, and now this is really important because Rodrigues du Plessis, obviously the South African king, he has now beaten two of the other African kings. Is it time for Francis Ngannou to make his return?
Now that, I mean, that tracks tremendously, and yes, obviously the answer is yes. We're going to need Francis to come back, grab Dana by the shirt again, put him up against a wall, and say, "Bring me back, because I have unfinished business for the entire continent of Africa."
Absolutely. And there was another meme that I thought was really funny. It was Rodrigues du Plessis, and it was like, it really be your own people. And it was him choking out Izzy and then beating Usman. It is pretty funny. One African to another. Like, Jesus, brother. Like, why can't you fight anybody else other than the Africans? God.
Yeah, I guess it does sell in the end of the day. I mean, it is part of the conversation, I suppose. But yeah, no, the only other thing that I had for this, which I thought was, maybe just out of left field, suddenly Dricus is also religious now. Has he been a religious guy before? He was shouting out his Lord and Savior and all this.
I actually didn't even pay attention to his post fight speech. Once he did it, I was clocked out, man. That was a long fight on my end, so it might have been fine, but he might have always been. He kind of seems like that kind of dude, but I don't know where he kisses his boys on the lips. I didn't know if this was a religious thing or not, but
I
either
mean,
way.
it's sanctioned by God Himself. Kissing the homies on the lips is that came down from the top.
Absolutely, good deal. Where are the penis flicks? Where are those? Walter Walker, did he get those from the top as well, or did the guy downstairs hand those off to him?
The verdict is still out on that one. We're gonna have to find out. We'll see what happens after his next fight. If we'll see who he shouts out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, that all being said, that's the whole of it. That is UFC Fight Night, du Plessis versus Usman here. Chase, after talking it all through, what do we feel about this thing?
This was fine. I mean, I'm not necessarily a guy who loves a lot of the main cards. To be fair, like I'm a prelim guy. I think that's where we get some true bangers. And if you're missing the prelims, you're missing a lot. The main card, this one was fine. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I obviously, we had great performances from Fatima and Tommy, but those last three fights just really didn't do it for me. But the prelims, on the other hand, I liked it. So this card was fine because majority of what I saw was very, very good. Once you get top to the top of the division, you normally do get to see where the skills kind of even out, and there's not necessarily much of a bigger gap to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain people at the top that will force the gap. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
that, and we just didn't see a lot of that in on this card. Yeah, this was fun. I mean, like I had a great time on the watch long, and hanging with the boys and all of that. So this certainly was a fine card. But I kind of am in the same boat. It feels like 6 out of 10ish to me at the end of the day. But still, that's a great time regardless. So I'm okay with it.
Absolutely.
Well, let's see what happens in the next week. Maybe it'll be more entertaining, but potentially not. This, of course, is UFC Fight Night, Ankalaev versus Guskov. So many people telling me, oh, this is such a banger card. There's so many great fights on this card. You guys do realize that this is in Abu Dhabi, and the majority of this card is geared towards the region. This is going to be a wrestle fuck fest. I can almost guarantee you in a lot of these.
Well, the main thing to state about the card itself is I'm not going to know too much about a lot of the people here. They're just random regional guys going against bottom of the barrel UFC guys. I just did a quick scroll through and I saw a guy that I'm going to definitely talk about being bottom of the barrel. But once you look at this co-main event, you instantly see how bad this is. But we'll get into it.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm surprised at the quality level of this card. There are a couple that maybe stand out, but yeah, let's talk them through and we'll make our predictions as best we
Oh,
can. Yes.
let's get into the picks
Oh,
from last week, of course. Excuse
always
me.
forget, of course. And how rude of me, considering how well you did, Chase. So yes, please run the numbers.
Okay, so out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 fights, I got 11 right. The
Yes.
only one being Mr. Alvin Hines, whatever. Thinker had gotten, he had missed, excuse me, 3 fights. So he went 9 for 12. And so the totals tallied up. I have 184 correct points, and Thinker has 164 correct points. So I'm up by 20 now.
God damn
Hmm.
it. Every time that I gain a little bit of ground, Chase Parton just snatches it back.
Yeah,
It's a
but
tough game.
either way,
But either way, no, shout out to you, Chase. And what was it, 11 to 12?
11 to 12, yeah.
11 to 12. That is very impressive. So a good deal. I went whatever it was, 13 to 14. You went 11 to 12. We're on a hot streak right now between the two of us.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, let's
It's
keep
the
it crazy.
discussion, man, and we're getting ready to do another one.
Absolutely, that it really is. I mean, like, it's like obviously some of these fighters and fights, when it's people that we don't know, we kind of talk it through and try to come to a conclusion with some of them, and those may be a little bit more difficult. But the discussion definitely helps, and hopefully, it is of value to you guys out there. So, thank you for rocking with us through these discussions here.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody out there wasn't paying attention, you're talking about value of the discussions. We just put 11 to 12 out there right on the stream for you. So you have all the money to be made. You just got to listen.
That's right. Yeah, 13 and 14 from the week before, 11 and 12 for this week. I mean, these are pretty good numbers right now. And
Hell yeah.
actually, that you might have been the statistically best on predictions tracker. We got to go and get those episodes, man. We got to get those clips because apparently they shout us out. So
Hell yeah. We'll have to look into it this week. I think the episode probably comes out on Wednesdays, I think is when it does.
all right, well, we have to find that out. But either way, in the meantime, let's talk these through here. Starting off with the main event: Magomed Ankalaev versus Bogdan Gushkov. This was supposed to be a different fight, right?
It was supposed to be Magomed Ankalaev versus Khalil Roundtree.
Yeah, we got a massive downgrade, is what happened here.
And then the co-main event was supposed to be the rematch between Gushkov and Jan Blachowicz after their draw.
Yeah, so
So
a bit of a do-si do here.
yes, and Gushkov. I mean, this is the guy who almost got finished by Billy Elikana. I mean, I would love to believe that Magomed Ankalaev is a lot better than Billy Elikana. His one legit loss in the UFC is to he has two legit losses in the organization. Paul Craig, who's the GOAT, and then of course Alex Pereira. So it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. He's on a big, he's on a big trajectory for a comeback. I think there's no hype around him anymore. He kind of waited out the fizzling of like his image. A lot of shit was being talked, and he got finished in the first round. So I think this is a good time for him to come around. His yearly appearance in the desert, of course, and Gushkov preparing for somebody else. Which, to be fair, if you really want to break it down on paper, I mean, if Gushkov was training for the guy that got a draw against Ankalaev, did he really train much differently? You know, like wouldn't you say he kind of trained for the correct fight? He got a draw with the guy who got the draw here. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean it tracks. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't really think that I don't really, to be perfectly frank, I'm not like too sold on the idea that any of the training for either fighter is going to really make that big of a difference when you're going up against former champion and mainstay of the division, Magomed Ankalaev, as a guy who is questionable that to even be in a main event. Was supposed to be a co-main event because he went to a draw in a fight that was not that great. I mean, like, it wasn't a bad fight. I mean, I don't know. Maybe people like this fight a lot more than I did, the Dione and Guskov fight. But like, it was not like a fight that really was like, man, oh, dude, can you believe that fight? They have to run that one back.
I
It's like,
think they might have traded 10-8 rounds. I think is kind of how that went.
if you saying that does kind of jog the memory a little bit on that, but again, does that not speak to the quality level of both of them and where they are at their career levels? Perhaps, I don't know. All I'm saying is that it doesn't track to me as being like Gushkov really is the next up and certainly deserves to be in this main event against former champion Ankalaev here. Come on, I think that we're being a little bit crazy to think that this is going to even be a competitive fight, honestly.
But sometimes, and I will say this, Gushkov does have the power that a lot of people have not been able to handle. You know, he knocked out Krylov, and Krylov came back and he took shots from Robert Whitaker. I mean, that's not the best example, but Gushkov has had the ability to knock people out. He is a finisher at heart. Magomed is going to have to fight a very clean 5 rounds unless he cleans him, early or whatever. Gushkov ain't going to make it 5 rounds. He just doesn't have that in his game, I don't think. It's not his plan. So I would say Ankalaev's going to get a finish. But if Bogdan, I mean, I've seen Ankalaev punched. If Bogdan Gushkov's got some sort of power like Alex Pereira, it doesn't look like it, but looks can be deceiving. I mean, he's a specimen. I don't know if you guys have seen this dude. If you've seen Lord of the Rings, there's an orc that's white. That's him. That's this guy.
Yeah, indeed. He is also the Anthony Smith lookalike and all of that. Sure. I mean, maybe it was being a little harsh. Maybe it'll be a competitive fight, but and I like Gushkov. I mean, I when he was coming up, I was like, yeah, there's probably something there, but it just seems like a very big step up. Kind of maybe a little bit too soon. And with the nature of how it all came together, the switch up and everything, it seems like kind of almost a setup. Really, I think that Gushkov is getting set up to get got.
Yeah, but it's a short notice fill in. They got the main event filled in the best way that they could. I guess I can't be too mad. Unfortunately, I would love to say just don't have these people fight, but these are actually people at the top of the game. If you are going to want to be the champ, you need to always be ready to make the weight and step up. Gushkov did that, so let's see how it pans out for him.
Fair enough. So, what's your choice?
Well, the last point that I'll say, Gushkov has been a dude who will take risks. I mean, whether or not it makes sense, taking a short notice fight against Billy Alicana on his debut and almost getting finished by him, questionable. But he was not afraid to take that risk. So I do appreciate him going into this. And
Yeah.
he trains with Walter Walker now. So are you thinking this is going to change anything? Before I make my pick, do you think he's going to heel hook Magomed Ankalaev?
I think that Walter smacked his member around a little bit and transferred some of that knowledge through his midsection.
Gotcha. He had the ET finger, and he kind of just they touched the tip. Yeah.
Yves Bayou, baby. Yeah, no. So I mean, I don't know. It's a pretty foregone conclusion for me. I am going to be picking Magomed Ankalaev to win this fight.
I don't necessarily talk about it a lot, but I would like to say that I think I am a decently big fan of Ankalaev. I do like his game. I think he is very solid. So I would like for him to win. But if Gushkov gets this done, guys, I mean that is if not the best guy to be in the division right now. I mean, Yuri fell off. Alex ain't even there. Olberg's the champ. Alonzo Menafield this. Zhang Minyang that. But you beat Ankalaev. The first one to beat Ankalaev that's not named Alex Pereira. I mean, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, I mean Ankalaev he's methodical. He comes in with a very clear-cut game plan as to like how he approaches fights. He's also powerful. I mean, he certainly can land shots when he decides to strike. I think that there's a lot of good qualities about Ankalaev.
Guskov, another thing, has Ankalaev ever faced somebody with the excuse me, I'm reading Son of Susie slander multiple times. That's not true. I'm the biggest fan of Billy Elikana, by the way.
Yeah,
But
I
the point
would
is,
never slander Son of Susie.
has Ankalaev faced somebody who has his hands as low as Guskov and will throw powerful strikes from his hips? I think that's where it comes down to. Ankalaev, he does have traditional boxing. It's very standard. It's very good. He'll back you up and he'll go for the takedowns. But will he be able to stand with Guskov, who's very light on his feet? He'll bounce in, he'll bounce out, he'll just drop you with a quick, straight right. I don't know. I really don't know, but I am going to take Magomed Ankalaev because I think it's the smarter, it's the more reasonable take when it comes to what you've been presented.
Yeah, I mean, and also remember Magomed Ankalaev, for the longest time, everybody was talking about how he was going to be the one to take down and possibly submit Pereira. I mean, that comes from somewhere. Now, granted, I am the first person, and even back then, was saying it's kind of mythical. I mean, I think it's a myth a lot of the times when it comes to this wrestling that he has, but he does, he can hold his own in that regard. So if Guskov wants to start bouncing around and getting all crazy with the footwork, then tie him up, clinch him up, slow him down.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a good? Hey, Ankalaev sub might be a really good play if Billy Elikana almost gets it in the first round.
He never goes for it though. That's the thing. He never actually goes for those subs.
Until now, when he saw that some dude off the street was able to take his neck almost.
True. There you go. Okay. Oh, I mean, pick your poison on the method, but I'm thinking Ankalaev by long 5-round decision is what it feels to me.
I don't know if Guskov will make the decision, but you pick who you think has the best method, and you comment which one you like. How about that?
Next, I love it. I love it. All right. Well, that takes us then down to the co-main of this thing. This fight I like. I'm this diminishing returns is as far as like this card goes, I feel. But well, you're making faces over here, and I'm pretty sure I know why. But let me introduce it at least. It's Steve Erceg versus Ramazan Timirov. Are you going to talk to me about juiciness?
Yeah, bro, just got a co-main event after getting he has 2 wins in the organization. One should have been overturned because he popped for steroids, and it wasn't. And now he gets a co-main event? Yeah. Why does Steve Erceg, I mean, again, a fight fell out, I get it. Steve Erceg getting some co-main event, bro, has 1 good win in the past 4? Like, what are we talking about here?
He's still riding high off of his loss to Pantoja. Crazy. I mean, Steve Erceg has had the wildest career in the UFC. I mean, it's really no 2 ways about it. The way that things have worked out for him. But no, you're not wrong about Timirov, though. I mean, the fact that he is coming back off cycle now and walking right into a co-main event is absolutely ridiculous. I'm the first person earlier on this very stream saying, cheaters never prosper. Egg on my face for right here. I mean, this is very ridiculous that you get to waltz back in. After, like you said, your wins have come. We were saying that the fact that he is a knockout artist at flyweight speaks volumes because of the dynamic of that, of being a power puncher in that division. Think of the power punchers in that division, him and Manel Kopp. What do they say about Manel Kopp and his titties?
Yeah.
So not great.
I agree with you. I think I don't want to make the mistake again, taking the dude who was coming off suspension for, steroids or whatever. I think Timirov is very wild. He's got power, but he's very wild. He just runs in there, throws punches. But the same thing that I said about Steve Erceg beating Tim Elliott is this is what it's a science to be good at boxing, to have a good, crisp set of skills in the boxing department. There's a reason that unorthodox loses to orthodox. When you are at the top of the game, throwing a wild hook and expecting to just knock your opponent out, it gets cleaned up by a dude who can straighten, and just drop a good check, So I think Steve Erceg will put on a good performance. I think he should win. I think what might even be crazy, because you're talking about the power that Timirov has at flyweight. He has got 11 TKOs and he's never been finished. Guzzi didn't look like he was going to get finished either in his last performance, and then what happened in the first round, he gets dropped. Steve Erceg, I think, has the perfect, combination of speed and precision, and he could probably, and I'm going for Steve Erceg here, but I'm going to say that I think he's going to He's gonna knock my boy Tamirov out.
I mean, the off cycle analysis has tracked pretty well in the last card, and look, I think that the problem becomes basically exactly what you said about the wildness not being paired with the enhancement, because this dude does get crazy with his striking, and yeah, if he connects, that is a problem. But you're taking away a big key component of what possibly was the deciding factor in his previous wins. And how many of those other wins from before the UFC all juiced up now? I mean,
All of them.
so what I'm saying. I mean, like, you're really leveling the playing field against Steve Erceg, who has been a guy who can navigate. I mean, this is the thing about Steve Erceg. Like, you think that Steve Erceg can't do it, and you take a look at the guy, and you're like, this isn't the dude who is going to be able to overcome. He's not tough enough to take the shots and keep going, or to have the awareness to get his head out of the way. Then you see him fight and do that time and time again, even though he has had a couple of setbacks. I mean, it's not like he's perfect in all of these fights, but you see him have the exact IQ. Steve Erceg is fight IQ at a very high level, I would say. Does it always work out for him? No. Will it work out against Timarov? I think so.
Absolutely. So you're taking Steve Erceg as well.
I am going to take Steve Erceg, and I hope that he puts a damn hurting on Timarov, because I do not appreciate being so high on Timarov. Timarov was a guy, if you recall, after that last win, I was like, "Oh, this might be a guy to watch out for over here. I might be getting on the Timarov train." And then you hear that the juice is involved, and it's like, well, you just lost a fan right there. So off cycle Timarov, get ready for a knockout.
He should have just blamed an Instagram doctor.
That it might have been the same guy. That might have been him and Volkan Oezdemir, running in the same circles, perhaps
Absolutely.
trying to get his investment portfolio up.
Mm.
All right, next up down the line here, Islam Dulatov, the runway model, is coming back against Wellington Turman. I mean, you want to talk about another setup, like regional. He's not even, I mean, he's German, but from Germany, but ethnically of the region. I mean, I guess another guy that, because he's an Instagram model, like, he's a dude who has a big following. This is a guy who does not need to fight. We've talked about this before with Islam Dulatov. He is very wealthy. He is, a person who's very successful outside of fighting. He had one fight, got a very nice performance in that, and fucked off for over a year, it feels like. And then he's coming back against Wellington Turman. I mean, is this the appropriate person to have him come back against 18-8 Wellington Turman?
The dude's on a 3-fight losing streak. So I'm gonna say no.
Fucking softball.
No, literally. But the problem really isn't the matchmaking. It's Islam Dulatov himself. This is a guy who wanted to prove something, that he's a tough guy. Like, I can compete. I'm not a runway model anymore. I want to be a pro athlete. And that's all fine and well. We believe you. You're very talented. But where the fuck is where is that? Where are you? What, like, you're now coming back after almost a year and a half kind of deal. It's like, bro, you're 12-1. And maybe there was some injury we didn't know about, but I need to find out, But coming back and getting a layup it's unfortunate, because you're playing into, like, oh, he can just do whatever the fuck he wants around here. He can sit out for as long as he wants, and then he'll just come back and get a lob, in his home region, whatever.
Did you not hear what I had said? He where was he? He was in Paris Fashion Week is where he was.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, this is a free win, of course.
It's really what is it. You were talking about this or in a previous episode. We were saying, like, just these guys that end up getting these, like, hand-picked matchups, and it's kind of a detriment to not really kind of to them at the end of the day, but, like, they're trying to build them up. He specifically bothers me in that regard, because he does not need this. Like, he is a dude who is very successful already, does not need to be fighting if he didn't want to, claiming to fight for the love of the game, but really just fighting when he feels like it. So
Yeah.
it's like, where's the love of the game there? I mean, and so, like, they're rewarding that behavior. Again, Dana loves his social media influencers. This guy he checks so many boxes. It fills the mold of exactly what you want. He's a guy who can go out and get a flashy knockout and then also represent your brand in, in Milan, in fucking, wherever I don't know where they do fashion shows. Milan and Paris are the places I know. So one of those cities, or London, or any other place, international fashion events, you're representing the UFC brand. It's funny too. PFL also has one of those, and I believe One Championship has one of those too. These like runway model guys. Those other guys actually fight more. They are actually out there having to do the fighting part. This guy, not so much.
Well, and so Hydra makes a good point here, saying, I don't blame him for not wanting to fight some other random guy in the Apex instead of making millions on his day job. Then
Then
why
do
the fuck?
that.
Then why are you a fucking pro athlete? Like,
That's
bro, why are you in the
exactly.
UFC? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, do it. Exactly. Bro, no one is forcing you to be here. We would not even know Islam Dulatov's name if he didn't insert himself into the conversation.
So if you're gonna be about it, bro, make a career out of it. Like, what do you? I don't care for the part-time fighters, bro. Like, it's not really my thing. So I really would hope that this dude, maybe it was an injury, maybe he had to take some time off, maybe he went to the military, maybe he had to serve. I don't know, but
Maybe he had to wear Versace on a runway in fucking Baku.
maybe. But now he's back in Abu Dhabi, and he's gonna go ahead and make a big performance because that's just what he does. Wellington Turman, 3-fight losing streak, gonna be 4. Ends. They probably just leave him out in the desert after that. Like, they don't even give him a ride home, probably.
Yeah, this is Mitch Ramirez part 2 for no reason.
But what I will say to this, and this has happened, I believe recently, is we've had Brazilians step into the desert and not give a shit what's going on, and they'll fuck some stuff up. I could be wrong, but 3 cards ago we were in the desert and we had some Brazilians that all won, I believe. Or I'm trying to think, man, Fazeev Torres. Let's see, Mateus Camilo. Yep, got that first round knockout. I guess not all of them won, but you get the point. Let's
Yeah,
see. John Matsumoto is another good one.
true. Yeah, no, you're right. That was Baku, actually. I'm pretty sure. So,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, could it happen? Yeah. Will it happen? I very highly doubt it. I think that this is exactly the T-ball that the organization wants it to be. I think Islam Dulatov gets another highlight. And as I said, I believe that this is brand synergy is what you are seeing here. TKO Holdings has a very good way of pulling off brand synergy. They do it with the UFC and WWE, Zuffa Boxing, and all of their other various properties. And now Islam Dulatov getting a win in the UFC, going out and modeling his clothing for, Louis Vuitton and any of these other fashion people that I don't know about. And with him, he takes the UFC brand.
Well, and then so Hydra again. I hate to just keep ragging on your comments here. He wants to be in the UFC because he is good enough, and his home country wants to see him fight at home. He can't make a career out of it like you out of the UFC like you guys want. Dana literally says that, but there are people who do. Like, that's the point, and they're not the best, and they're not the most exciting, but they check the boxes. Kevin Holland may not be the best. He may not be the most exciting, but he makes plenty of money in the UFC, and he seems to be doing very well. And he's not a social media guy. Like, I mean,
Right.
no casuals know who a Kevin Holland is.
Well,
Like,
and the other part is that the model that you're talking about when it comes to Dana's what Dana's comments are, you come into the organization and make the name for yourself there to take it elsewhere. This guy had the name already and came into the organization. He flipped it around. He didn't need it. So why do we have to watch it? I mean,
yeah.
and again, is he good enough to get the knockout? Sure. So it's like, yeah, I will watch him knock somebody out. I'm sure I will enjoy that part of things. But when it comes to him getting a softball to do it, that's the problem. I wouldn't even be mad about this if it was an actual, like, legitimate fight for him.
Mhm.
But, like, again, to give this guy a tee-up fight when he's not even really caring about being a fighter, it's just a bit of a slap in the face to all the guys who have to dog it out.
So, with all that being said, it sounds like I know who you're taking, but go ahead, tell me.
I am taking Islam Dulatov by round 1 knockout.
All right, I love it. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go indeed. All right. Next up, it is the long anticipated debut of Magomed Zainukov, aka John Pork, and he is going up against Damien Rezbecki.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? This is a dude who has not been in the organization before. He did not go to the Contender Series. He did not go to Tough. So they found a Polish guy who was game enough to come to the desert and fight Magomed, John Pork, that is. And what else am I supposed to expect? You know, they want him to come out here and have a great debut. The Polish guy's probably going to be pretty tough, so he may or may not finish him, because Magomed didn't even get a finish in his Contender Series matchup. But the Polish guy may be tough, and he may be able to withstand. But I think Magomed is definitely here to get some vicious finish over him. So he's 24 years old. He don't know no better. The Polish guy is just going to come in here and get butchered probably.
Yeah, I remember there was another guy with a similar
That's who
name.
I thought it was too.
And that, yeah, exactly. The guy who fought in Paris, I believe. It is
Hmm.
not him. If you were also in that same boat of thinking that this was that guy, it's not him. I kind of wished that it had been him though, because that was a guy I recall on our discussion saying like, I think that there might have been more for that guy.
The
Um,
guy who beat Leon Shabazian, or are you talking about somebody else?
No, 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 no. This is a guy who lost. Again, I think his name was Respecki, but
Hmm.
that's it might be related. It might be a brother of this guy or something. Maybe that's the kind of fact we'll find out when they're doing the walkouts. But either way, my point it was in Paris. I'm fairly certain that he fought in Paris and did not win. But my point in bringing that up is that is not him. In case you were thinking that it was, and because of that, the places this guy has fought. He fought one time in WoW in Elliott Taporia's promotion in Spain, and then a promotion called FEN.
Hmm.
Do those wins, mean much to you? Probably not, considering what region of the world we are in. These are, if you take the scales, you tip them in favor of certain fighters with these cards, and John Pork is certainly one that they are trying to tip those scales in favor of. I would say I don't think that they're bringing some random Polish guy in to go and upset this dude who is a known meme in the sport right now.
Yeah, no, it's just not. It's not what the cards are going to be dealt for our Polish fighter here, and that's unfortunate. Because at 24 years old, obviously this is an opportunity that he had to jump on, but I just don't know. Because you start to feel bad sometimes if the guys are too tough. It's like, man, he could be 24 years old and he just takes the biggest ass whooping of his life. In the desert. In front of that dude's home territory. It'd be fucked up to see, but I don't see that not happening, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, I mean, it is kind of crazy though too that they're teeing up Zainukov, considering that he did not look great in his debut. I mean, like just yet another instance here where it feels like there are extenuating circumstances that are getting fighters propped up more than they actually deserve. Like the fact that he even got a contract felt a little questionable, considering how good that season was. I mean, we were seeing so many crazy finishes, so many people looking tremendous. Now, granted, it was on the Contender Series, but you know what I'm saying. Like people actually showing out the way the Contender Series is meant to be done, and then this guy gets a decision win and also a meme name, and now it's like, oh well, he's got to debut sometime. Let's give him a nice softball here.
Yeah, so I mean, John Pork probably going to come out here and do his thing. The last thing I think that you need to remember about him, and this is interesting to know because Dylan Dennis is not allowed anywhere near the UFC. Um, this guy was involved in a scuffle with him not once but twice.
Two
So
times. What was the other
exactly.
time?
I think no, they were throwing water bottles at each other. I think, or something. Maybe it
Uh,
wasn't Dylan Dennis, but there was another instance where John Pork was involved in some backstage scuffle or in the crowd scuffle. Maybe it was Nate Diaz. Maybe that makes more sense now. But the point is that Chanko, aka John Pork, he's a little bit of a troublemaker, and he kind of does. And I'm not the first one to bring up the Muslim Brotherhood, but he's one of the members. He's not one of the leaders, but he is one of the members. If there's ever a scuffle, you will see John Pork making his fucking debut appearance to that one.
oh yeah, on a recent stream we were talking about him, and I had said that we've seen him fight inside the cage as many times as we've seen him fight outside the cage at this point. So
Yeah,
yeah, but whatever. I mean, either way, when it comes to this fight, it does feel like another one of these pretty bog standard setups. So go out there and get your win, John Pork, and we will
yeah,
see more more pork in the future, perhaps. All right, you're taking him too, right?
yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, there you go. Next up, Rizvan Kuniev versus Tyrell Fortune. This is actually one of the more decent fights on this card, actually, as crazy as that might sound. Kuniev, I mean, a guy who I think probably a little bit better than people may have expected he was going to be in his debut. They really made him. They really had to work to get him to fight Curtis Blades, and then he ended up doing decently in that fight. Tyrell Fortune, a dude who did pretty well in his fight, but then almost did not get the victory because Bruce Buffer didn't say the name right. What are you thinking here, Chase?
And that's what's interesting about this is so in the debut for both of these guys, Kunaev arguably won against Curtis Blades. A lot of the fan votes of say Kunaev, the judges scorecard, the media panel, whatever. That wasn't the case. Also with Tyrell Fortune, I saw him lose and walk out the cage as a loss. I saw him do that. And then magically I come back to the screen and he's getting his hand raised for a win. So there's a lot of stuff going on with this fight. But the thing that I would say is Kunaev, his funky stuff happened against the second best heavyweight in the world. Tyrell Fortune, barely, and when I mean barely, I mean I don't think he won. I thought it was the craziest thing ever that they brought him back into when Tybura beat him, in my opinion. And it was one of the worst fights that we've seen in a while either, but that's fine.
I think that he definitely. No, I mean, I think that that's why it was so crazy that they had to do it the way that they did was because he definitely won that fight. But Tybura even knew that he won that fight.
Yeah, no, that fight was it was ass. But
I mean, no, it was not a good fight. Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
If 30-27 for Tyrell Fortune is the hill somebody wants to die on, that's okay for me. But I mean, having a not great fight against Tybura versus having a good, almost winning performance against Curtis Blades, I think there's just two different levels there.
I mean, and also yet again, I mean, I feel like a little bit of a broken record, but and I'm not saying that this is going to be like like an entirely lopsided fight, but when you talk about tipping the goddamn scales for the region right now, I mean, this is another one that screams that exact thing. Like you said, Kunaev doing it against Curtis Blades, going up to that level. I mean, which it felt like a hot shot at the time, and then this now being the level of fighter that he's competing against. This is, I mean, to think that this is anything but another softball is just it doesn't track. This is another time that they are really like they are really trying to have the audience in Abu Dhabi cheering for every single fight at the top of their lungs because their guy is going to be the one getting the dub.
Absolutely. That's the name of the game when you go to the desert, man. You just got to pack it full of people that you know are going to win, that are from that region, that are representing that region's culture. So
yeah, well, that being said, I mean, I think that Kunaev is the wiser choice here. I mean, it's certainly one that we've seen higher level competition out of. As you said, a win over Tybura. That's what you're supposed to do. So, fine that he did that and, gets another fight in the organization for Fortune. Fortune does have a decent pedigree. I mean, he did come from, I believe, PFL, right? I mean, he
you might be right about that.
I think so. I mean, like, it's not like he's not fought at a decent level, but we've talked plenty of times about how PFL is not UFC. Kunaev kind of proving that he is more UFC caliber. I think Kunaev takes the win.
Absolutely. I have the same pick. Yep.
All right, we are in lockstep on most of these so far. They're making it that way. This isn't one of these cards where it's like, I mean, we would have a lot more opportunity to have a lot more, in-depth back and forth and potentials on either side if these fights weren't constructed to be one-sided.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
Anyway. All right, going on down the line here. This is Abu Bakar Vagayev versus Saigid Exakmaev. Saigid Exakmaev, I remember. He's a contender series, I believe, right?
No, he actually came from one championship.
That's why I remember.
And went up against Nicolas Dalby and lost by split decision.
In one championship?
No, that was in the UFC on his debut. November 20th, 2025.
Okay, so I remember him from that fight. Okay, so yeah, so he lost to Nicolas Dalby. Yeah, well, that's I mean, Dalby's the GOAT, so obviously that makes sense. Okay, well, I mean, tell me about Abu Bakar Vagayev then.
Well, actually, first about Saigid, I think there's something to note as well is that when you look at his record, of course, with the Nicolas Dalby thing, he had not competed 3 years previous, so that was a 3-year return from one championship to go fight in the UFC against Nicolas Dalby. His most recent performance before that is against a guy named S. Aoki. I'm like, no way, Steve Aoki's out here fucking performing now. But no, it is not him, but it is against a dude who's 48-11, 32 submissions, never been subbed. So I find that record astonishing. I mean, he beat that guy, knocked him out in the first round. So That was one championship at the time. Let's take a look at
Yeah.
Abu Bakar.
Yeah, Abu Bakar Vagayev over here. No picture on ESPN. You know, I don't remember Vagayev as the name's not sticking out. If he was a Contender
He
Series guy,
Nope, he wasn't. He's from ACA and WFCA. So he's
fantastic.
yeah, he's made a long tenure there. Holy decisions. He's 24-4. He has 4 knockouts, been knocked out 3 times, 1 submission, 0 subs. Zero times been subbed. So not a big finisher.
I mean, it sounds like a pretty even match, honestly. And both of these guys regional to an extent. They're both Russian, so you know, this I wouldn't think is Dagestan versus Dagestan though. That doesn't really track.
It looks about maybe close enough. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess do you hang your hat on the one championship experience and the one UFC fight, even if it's a loss for is Gamaev?
Yes, I do. I am going to take him, and I think he'll probably get a finish here.
Yeah, I am also going to take him. Show me something, Bubakar. If I'm hearing decision merchant, then it better be a goddamn decisive decision. But I mean, I don't have anything to go off of, and the credentials don't really scream this is the guy to be you know, taking the chance on.
100%.
All right. Well, that takes us down to the prelims here. Your featured prelim of the evening. One of the other fights that I actually care a little bit about on this card. Actually, the prelims of this card are a lot better, I believe, than the main card. But this is Walter Walker versus Thomas Peterson. This is another one that I'm fairly confident about. Now, Thomas Peterson has looked good in some of his fights. As far as his wrestling goes, he is a credentialed wrestler. He lacks in other departments, but we all know what Walter Walker does very specifically. I guess the question then becomes, Chase, do you think that Thomas Peterson can defend the heel hook from hell?
Well, Walter Walker has been on social media saying he's done doing heel hooks. He's done. He's going to strike. He's going to do this. And whether it's true or not, in the back of your mind, you do have to keep that in mind because people, as we saw last week, they live up to what they say on the fucking social medias about their bets and what they're going to do. You know, so if Walter Walker plans to come out here and strike, cool, great. I mean, he's a big 6'6" guy. He might have some good power behind him, but Thomas Peterson is actually a pretty slick karate kind of taekwondo shit that he's got going on now. I mean, for a heavyweight dude, he moves very, very well. He's got a wrestling base, and he seems determined to want to actually be somebody in this sport. You know, you've seen him lose a couple times, and when you saw him win, you could tell that meant something to him. So I don't think he wants to be in the losing column again. He took this fight. Obviously, he sees something that he could possibly do to win. If Walter Walker isn't able to get him down, because if you remember how he got Kennedy and Chezuku down, he just ran over with his head down. And then Kennedy had that one moment where he grabbed him and just let him run into the cage or whatever. If Thomas Peterson can capitalize on the footwork, I think Walter Walker might be done here if he doesn't just bull rush him and get the heel hook. Now, again, I had always started out saying it's like, okay, you have 2 heel hooks in a row, 3 heel hooks in a row. It's not going to happen every time. Eventually you're going to be done getting heel hooks. I'm going to go ahead and just to make it interesting, of course, you know, and I do think this is a good pick. I'm not sitting here saying I need to pick against Walter Walker, but I see the holes in his game. And I'm not saying Thomas Peterson is going to be the one to actually finish it or get it done. But I'm going to go ahead and say, out of all the picks that I think on this card, this one makes the most sense of a dog pick for me to go ahead with.
All right, I'm with the thought process. I think that Walter Walker is the exact person to say a whole bunch of shit that he does not mean on social media.
Right.
He does a lot of things on social media, if you recall. You know, a whole bunch of stuff with his good friend Guskov there.
Yes.
But yeah, so I mean, whether or not it's the heel hook or not, I do think that Walter is probably I wouldn't say more well-rounded. Thomas is pretty well-rounded.
He's got grappling too. He's got some subs.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I mean, you know, he has shown that he is you know, potentially better than you know, than you might think as kind of a tubbier dude who you know, wouldn't think moves very well. He does move pretty decently. You know, I might actually go with you on this one, Chase. I don't know. No, I think I am going to stick with it. I think I'm going to go with Walter Walker. I think that Walter Walker, even if he I feel like if he doesn't go for the heel hook early and it ends up going to round 2 and he feels like he had any adversity that he was not anticipating or didn't like, then he will fish for that. And if he does start fishing for that, I don't think that Thomas is going to necessarily have he might not be able to finish Thomas with the heel hook, but I think that he can steer the fight in a way that makes it that Thomas doesn't get his own offense off.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
I like it.
That's the thought, at least. I mean, this might be one where you end up getting the jump on it, because Thomas has Thomas has proved me wrong in the past. That's why I think that you're making some good points about him, but go with what you know. Walter Walker doing some good things, man. I do think that Walter Walker is pretty talented, and even if it is a somewhat predictable game plan with the heel hooks at this point, if it is working and working consistently, it's going to take a very specific training that Thomas is going to have done, unlike Louis Sutherland.
Absolutely.
So, all right, then we are split. There's our first split, I believe. So, how about that?
Make sure to like the channel of who you guys think is cooking the most.
Indeed. All right, next up, Dustin Jacoby is fighting a man named Muhammad Saeed.
Dustin Jacoby, somebody who is actually good, who has just knocked out a former title challenger who arguably beat the greatest fighter of all time. Dustin Jacoby, the guy who has, not like one or two, but like a handful of knockouts in this organization. You would think that this would be a layup for him. But something speaks to me that this is not right, man.
This is another setup here.
This is wrong. Like, what are we talking about? He's 9-0. Like, where do they get this dude? Is this dude gonna be on the roids? Like, is that what we got here? Is this the dude that's gonna be so durable he gets his ass whooped by Dustin Jacoby for 2 rounds and then chokes him out in the third? Like, I'm not positive of what we're seeing here, but I'm gonna go ahead and say Dustin Jacoby because it makes sense and it's the only logical the only logical winner here. But if this dude comes in here and takes all the shots from Dustin Jacoby, when we know UFC talent cannot, if he comes in and beats Dustin Jacoby after he gets his ass fucking whooped, then damn, that is a crazy reality.
Well, I think that the pick obviously makes sense. Let me tell you a little bit about him. But first, I do have to shout out the 10-7 MMA. Thank you very much for the jewels, brother. Appreciate your generosity. So this guy, Muhammad Saeed, obviously he's 9-0, undefeated. And, obviously the 5 wins, his previous 5, he has 4 of them by TKO. 4 by KO, TKO, 1 by TKO via retirement. So he made somebody quit, essentially. And the other in the 5 is a unanimous decision. So does that then say that maybe he comes in and has knockout power to do it against our dude Dustin Jacoby?
Dustin Jacoby's got kickboxing for days. If he's going up against someone who just has power, I think he's going to be able to navigate that very well. But we'll have to see what else this dude brings to the table. It is a very crazy matchup for Dustin Jacoby to just get some dude on a debut that's never been seen, probably never seen the light of day up until now. And it's crazy to think that if he loses, something was up. So
I mean, Dustin Jacoby, such a seasoned veteran at this point. You think that a newcomer is going to show him something that he hasn't seen, I guess, is my question. So I don't think the answer is yes. I think that Dustin Jacoby is the safer choice here. There's always a puncher's chance for Muhammad Saeed. He might be, maybe he is that guy. We'll have to see. But this is an odd tee up or not even a tee up. I don't know. It's an odd call up, I guess. But again, they're just stacking this card with a bunch of regional guys that all seem to be skipping the line. What is the point of the Contender Series if these guys are not fighting on it?
Yeah, I definitely have had that same question before as well, but I don't know. But we are going to go ahead and just go with it and take Dustin Jacoby on my end. What about you?
Same. I am taking Dustin Jacoby as well.
Good.
All right. Santiago Ponzinibbio. He is fighting Sam Patterson. Of course, Sam Patterson, known far and wide for his banger with MVP in his last outing. Santiago Ponzinibbio, known far and wide for his age being very high, and being one of the Spanish broadcasters. He is on the Spanish broadcast team, so he's doing things outside of the cage already. This is the dude who I had a pretty competitive fight with Muslim Salikov, if I remember correctly. This seems like a pretty no-brainer to me with this fight. What are you thinking, Chase?
I think it's also a no-brainer. You got to remember Sam Patterson let a lot of people down with his last performance because he did not do anything against MVP. But the thing is MVP has a style that it's hard to just walk right into punches. You don't want to do that, of course. But Ponzinibbio, he does. That dude walks into punches. He will bring a fight to you. He has that old school mentality where he's going to dog it out with you. And that's unfortunately where Sam Patterson's just going to batter this dude. And that's probably what's going to happen. It's probably not going to be as long as you think because Ponzinibbio is already fading away. We saw in his last fight, he got worked over and had that meme where he was falling over by Daniel Rodrigues. It's it's just time for him. This is a young, hungry killer. They clearly want to make up for what happened with Sam Patterson and MVP. So they're giving him Ponzinibbio, and they're going to let him knock him out in the desert. Which, why are these on Abu Dhabi? I don't know.
Because they can't have every single fight on the card be regional guys. It just wouldn't work. So they have to have a couple. Sam Patterson definitely is the choice here. The big thing, like what you were alluding to with MVP. MVP is a hard style to game plan for, even though Sam Patterson did say specifically that he did, which was kind of one of the annoying things about that fight. But MVP makes the fight very difficult. He is very bouncy. He is very movement heavy. And Santiago Ponzinibbio is not. He is a plotty, heavy-footed fighter. He will stand in front of you, and Sam Patterson will be able to move around him as freely as he would like to. And I think that's going to be his ultimate downfall. He's too heavy on his feet. He's too wanting to engage in the boxing, where Sam Patterson has knockouts. If it doesn't work with the knockouts, Sam Patterson also has submissions as well. He aside from what you saw in the MVP fight, never let it be forgotten that Sam Patterson was an under-the-radar beast before that fight, at least in my mind. I mean, I was always the first person to say Sam Patterson is bubbling beneath the surface and not getting the respect he deserves. I think the MVP fight was a tremendous setback for an otherwise, up-and-coming guy. I mean, a dude who should be respected as a guy who is kind of next up. So he needs to regain that aura that I thought that he might have had. He just looks like the milkman. That's all that it is. He's an English dude. He's, kind of unassuming looking and generic, but when you see him fight, he is neither of those things. So
absolutely.
Get back to what you do best there, Sam Patterson. Go get this dub.
100%. Yeah.
All right. Next up, Ismael Bonfim versus Axel Sola. Wholly one-sided fights on this card. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much else to say. I mean, Axel Sola is a dude who was in a Fighter of the Year contention with Mason Jones. We've seen that dude want to dog it out and actually try to get a win. Ismael Bonfim got kicked in the eye and tapped out. I mean, that's what I remember from him. He has not been a dude who has good luck in the cage. He is. I'm trying to think. Chris Padilla. That's right. Gets finished by Chris Padilla. And
Taco pad.
Taco pad. But I think it's just an easy one for Axel Sola because he showed that he was willing to compete and he showed a lot of skills. He may be a little one-dimensional in the striking, but Ismael Bonfim is not good. So it's not worrisome.
Yeah, there's always got to be one brother that's the lesser. He is the lesser. Yeah. We just saw his brother bring it to Bilal Muhammad for 5 rounds. He would never dream of doing something like that, and certainly not against Axel Sola. Axel Sola, as you said, that fight with Mason Jones was a knockdown drag out, and this dude, we were singing his praises in defeat. That's exactly how you want to lose. Same with Seokhyeon Ko, as we were saying earlier in the stream. This guy has it. Ismael Bonfim does not. Axel Sola for the win.
100%. Nice. Easy.
All right. Who the hell are these people? Magomed Tuchalov. He's fighting Brenson Ribeiro. I know that name. Who, what, where, when? Chase 6-0?
Brenson Ribeiro because he faced Caio Machado, if you remember this fighter.
Yep.
They have a similar opponent because that is the most recent opponent for Magomed here. He knocked him out in the first round at UAE Warriors 69. So Is Caio Machado somebody that you want to think is good enough for if him to knock him out and Brenton Ribeiro to take him to split decision or majority, whatever it is? It, where do you lie here? Because I don't think Brenton Ribeiro. I think this will be one of the Brazilian upsets for sure. I know Brenton Ribeiro doesn't get the biggest respect. I mean, obviously he's been finished and he's not looked great, but he is quality. You know, he's durable. He's got grappling. If it gets to the ground, he's aggressive when it comes to submissions, and he's got a chin and he's got really long arms. Like, I think he's just a tough matchup to just walk in and think that at 26 years old, I'm 6-0. Like, I can just. This is a tough guy to get around. Once you get around the striking, his grappling does hold up. So it is, and he's 6'5", so he's going to be a little more lumbering of a guy. I think Brenton Ribeiro really I think he's going to show out. I think people are going to not think that he has a chance here, but I think he's really going to probably get a first round finish. I mean, he's pretty fucking good when it comes to the quick starts.
Yeah, this Tucholov dude, all 5 of his last 5 are finishes, all in his favor. 4 knockouts and 1 submission. So I mean, it's probably kill or be killed in this fight, I would suspect. That being said, again, you got to look at it like same as you look at the Contender Series, even if they didn't go there. Wins in UAE Warrior, not speaking as highly as Brenton Ribeiro and UFC experience. So, again, show it to me. I mean, I really have to always fall back on that. I don't know enough to know, if these wins are of quality or not, but he's only got 6 of them. Brenton Ribeiro has 27 professional fights. Now, granted, 17-10, not the greatest record, and really closer to one of the poorer records. But that being said, he still is a dude who has seen it all inside of the UFC cage. This dude is cutting his teeth. I got to go with what you know.
All right, Ribeiro.
I am taking Brenton Ribeiro, yes.
All right, let's do it.
All right, next up. Well, I know who I'm taking here. This is Nurulo Aliev. Jesus Christ, Aliev. Nurulo Aliev versus Mike Davis, hometown hero Mike Davis.
I don't have much to say about this one. I mean, I'm going to pick Aliev just simply off the fact that he should be in top control most of the time during this. But I think this is, and I hope to be wrong, I hope the matchmakers cook something up here because I think this is by far maybe one of the worst stylistic matchups that you can make. You have the top control wrestler who does nothing with top control, the BJJ guy who sits on his back and does nothing with his back. I don't really like this one. I think we're not going to see much here. We're going to see Aliev placing Mike Davis in places that he would love to be able to finish him, but he doesn't have the skill set to do that. That's what I'm thinking here.
I mean, this is Mike Davis sans paint fumes, sir. I mean, this is a dude who, we saw actually do pretty well under potentially, questionable circumstances, if you want to believe that. But a guy who's pretty goddamn tough. I mean, I think that you're giving a lot of credit to Aliev's abilities here, which I mean, he is 11-0. I got to admit, obviously he has the credentials there, but Mike Davis is no slouch, dude. He can hold his own when it comes to the wrestling. It's going to be really, I think that it's going to have to go beyond the wrestling. It's going to have to get into a grappling situation here, which I mean, I don't know if Aliev is really going that far with it. I mean, we thinking potential submission?
No, this dude has no submissions on his record. He has 2 TKOs. That is it. He is 11-0, so 9 of them are decisions. I think this is just going to be as boring as they come. Mike Davis, he may be fine. He may look like a quality wrestler, and he may, contest some positions, but at the end of the day, I've seen this dude wants to use his jujitsu. He's going to end up on the bottom, and Aliev is just going to rack up control time. He's not going to fucking hit him very much. Mike Davis might look active off his back. If he really wants to win, elbows off the back, that would be great because anything is going to take away from Aliev's. He's not. He's just a wrestler. That's all he does. He doesn't go for subs. He doesn't try to stand up and ground and pound. He doesn't post up. It's just going to be him trying to take Mike Davis where he wants in the cage. And it's going to be up to Mike Davis. If he wants to wrestle with him, that is good. But if he falls, and if not falls, but if he, pulls guard, if he starts doing jujitsu stuff, I just don't see him winning. I just don't.
Fair enough. I mean, the one thing though that I would say makes the difference here is that Mike Davis does have pretty decent striking when he enacts it. So I mean, also he can hold his own with his own wrestling. I mean, he's not just a pure jiu-jitsu guy. He's got wrestling too. He's shown the levels to all of that before. I mean, we've seen him get some pretty goddamn good wins with all of those attributes in play. So that being said, I'm going to go with Mike Davis for the upset here. I think he's going to give Aliev his first loss.
I I just find some of these names to just not be impressive. Like so in the UFC, you have a win against Thomas Gifford. He knocked him out. Shout out Mike Davis. He knocked him out in the third round, so it was pretty fucking boring for 4 minutes and 45 seconds. But Mason Jones,
That could have been a crazy
it
banger fight.
been a banger. You're right. My bad. Okay, Mason Jones. Now that one ages well. He unanimous decision.
Right.
Okay. Now you have Borashev. Okay, unanimous decision. Okay, Natan Levy. Okay, submission. Okay, yeah, and then loses to Fares Ziam, whatever you want to say. But then his next win is a KO against Mitch Ramirez, who we just talked about as a layup for fucking Chase Hooper. So, Mike Davis may be quality to some people. I've been in a Discord with people who have said Mike Davis is one of their favorite fighters, and that's just not me because I've seen this dude fight, and he don't fight like I would want him to, is what I would say. So if he comes in here and shows me a whole new Mike Davis game, I will be a believer. But for what it is, wrestler's gonna wrestle, and Mike Davis is probably gonna be gun shy, like I've seen him for the last performances that he's been in. So
No credit given to the paint fumes whatsoever. I can't believe you.
no, definitely not.
All right, fair enough. No, I'm sticking with the guns on this one. I think that I think that Davis is going to shock the world on this. And strength of record for Aliev. I mean, what were we talking about with him? I mean, Shamrock. Come on,
Joe Selecki.
yeah, exactly. So come on, man. I mean, these are not crazy wins over here. I mean, yeah, there's really no and nothing on Aliev's record that like screams anything.
But the promise is still there since he's undefeated. That's the thing. We've seen Mike Davis fold and we've seen him not look great, but we haven't seen that. We know what Aliev is doing. I'm telling you, I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be the glitz and glam at 11-0, and it's not because of his record. But we know what he's able to do, and it's wrestle. And I've seen Mike Davis lose to Fares Ziam, who got wrestled by Tom Nolan. So
MMA math.
Yeah, I get you. I hear you.
Fair enough. Look, the thought process, I'm sure, is speaking to a lot of people. You want to go with that? I think it's completely acceptable. I'm just saying that I've seen a wider bag of tricks from Mike Davis, and I think that if he enacts some more of those, then there's a shot here.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going with it, even if it is it would certainly be a regional upset. All right, and starting this card off, it is the big homie, Cody Gibson. He is going up against a man named Abdul Hussein, a dude from Finland, but the name speaks to the region, perhaps. What are we thinking about this, starting the card off?
The way that Hussein is spelled, I don't think it's the same. I think it's a little different. Hussein, maybe. Hussein. Maybe.
No, it's certainly Hussein. It's spelled exactly the same as Saddam.
No. Oh, is that how his was spelled? No, but I see him in one all the time, and it's Hussan. It's like Hassan. So
I mean, it's like Parton and Parton.
Either way, true. But his name is Abdul as well, so I guess maybe you're speaking to it. But no, he's from Finland, so. Do we know if the Finnish even train well? I don't know. Cody Gibson is not necessarily on the best path right now. Hopefully this is a big win in the right direction, but stepping up on short notice, traveling halfway across the globe to a different time zone. Oof, I'm not loving that so far, is what I would say.
Yeah, against a guy who in his last 5 is all finishes, all wins by finish, 2 submissions, 3 knockouts. Don't like that. Don't like that for Cody.
But Cody's tough.
Cody is very tough. Cody is very tough, but sadly, that same toughness didn't play for him when he got knocked out in one punch by what was it, Ricci Long?
Ricci Long,
yeah. Yeah, Man, I Cody is the homie, and I hate it hurts my heart, but like I have to be accurate in the way that I predict these fights, and it's not a reflection on him as a person, because I do think that he is a great guy, and like I said, a person I consider a friend, but it's just might be time for Cody after a knockout like that. Maybe he just was an off night. I don't know. Chase, give me your thoughts here. I don't want. I'm hanging myself out to dry.
This is a guy who has two separate stints in the organization of the highest level of the mixed martial arts. This is somebody who was on a redemption tour of The Ultimate Fighter and came up just short in the finale, versus a guy who we know nothing about. Cody is a lot of things. His record may be what it is, but like I said, he's tough. He's got good jujitsu. He's got good wrestling to go along with it. He's very dominant once he gets into his groove. Got the experience at the highest level, not just back then. And it's like, oh, he's making a big return. No, he's back in the mix, still facing people who are very, very good in the division. And he's just not getting the nod. But somebody who is not in the organization at all, coming off of a bunch of finishes, doesn't scare me, because once it leaves the first round, everything's different. So I think Cody, I think he's going to get a submission win here, is what I'm going to go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would be very remiss picking Brenton Hibero to win and not going with the homie Cody Gibson. For fuck's
Mm,
sake, he's got the greatest body triangle in the game. I stake my claim on that. And yeah, look, it's the exact same thing. That this literally with Hibero, it's the exact same thought process. Can't go off of a dude who I don't know anything about, even with all the finishes. Who gave him these wins, brother? We've seen Cody in some pretty goddamn good scraps before. Like I said, I mean, leading into this, I kind of led you in a different direction, perhaps. I do have pause, and I want to not have those pauses anymore. So Cody, change this conversation. I feel like I've been saying this a couple of times now, and that's also concerning. I think that Cody is probably pretty close to the chopping block if he does not start getting these wins here. He's 38 years old at this point. I mean, he's already on the tail end of his career one way or another. He just opened his gym as well. He's already starting to think about post-career stuff. Obviously, he's a teacher too, so he'll be fine. But
right.
my point is that as far as the fighting goes, like, if you still want it, if you still want to be that guy, you got to win these fights, and this is definitely the one you got to win right now against literal no picture nobody right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm hoping for the best with Cody. I know he's got the skills to compete at the highest level, and against somebody who's just going to walk in here, I'm not with it. I think Cody's going to hold his ground, and he's not going to get left in the desert like Wellington.
True. Yes. No. Go into the desert and go get this win. Bring it home to the United States, Cody, and then come on the goddamn show sometime. We're gonna get you on the free for all.
And
But
and Bleeding Edge here has a great comment. I don't know if you just saw this. I
I
think there's
did.
a
Yeah.
fight that's not on the list. I heard him talking about it on a podcast today. Milo Janicic should be the second fight of the night, as far as I know. I wonder if it fell off or hasn't officially been added yet.
Yeah. Let me
Interesting.
see. Milos. Yeah. Milos. Janicic is what it looks like
Hmm.
here. Give me 1 second. Let's see what
Yeah.
Tapology has to say about that. Oh yeah. Yeah. Let's look at this real quick here. So yes, if you go to Tapology, it would appear that Milos Janicic versus Noah Gugnon. Gunan? Gugnon.
Hmm.
Yeah, that it says it's a confirmed bout. Yeah. Oh no, Medic versus Rodrigues.
Oh.
What?
Okay. So next week, August 1st.
Oh, okay. So there you have it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't remember that was announced. Medic versus Rodrigues. How about that?
Yeah, right out of when he got out of prison.
There you have it. Yes. Okay. So yeah. So not for this card then, Bleeding Edge, but you are correct. Janicic making his debut on the next one.
At least as far as we know, maybe the UFC prediction trackers page will update us and let us know that there's an extra fight to be made while Thinker figures out what just happened. There we go.
Sorry, yeah, I clicked the wrong button. But either way, yeah, but that does bring us to the end of the actual fight for this card. So if you would like to hang out with myself or Chase for these fights that we are talking about, make sure that you are there early. This is an early card. Thing starts at 9:00 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. It is an early one. You're going to get your evening off on Saturday night. So for these fights, we will still be here bright and early. Myself on my channel, which is youtube.com/@YamaShow, and Chase, you on your channel, which you can tell them about right now.
Of course, youtube.com/@CPSmalls. You'll watch on Fridays one championship, and on Saturdays you'll watch UFC with us. So again, 9 a.m. apparently is what it seems like we're getting ourselves into. So be ready.
Absolutely. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook at Yama Show. Make sure to follow your boy, yamashow.com, for all your merchandise needs, not only for Yama, but for last week's fights as well. Chase rocking it right now. Appreciate that, brother. And yeah, more stuff coming out on the channel all the time. We'll get you something out soon, I'm sure. That Conor McGregor edit is taking up a good amount of time, but we'll figure something else out. Of course, The Ultimate Fighter tomorrow for both of us on our individual channels as well. Watch it with me, and then I'll be over in Chase's chat to watch it again with him. So having a good time with all of that, having a good time on this show with all of you fine people. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with us for this one. As always, we appreciate you. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.